Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So this is Amit. Today we have again came back live with the Dr. Carlo Alvaro so on the discussion on a follow-up discussion with for the Kalam Cosmological argument. And today we have the link for you to join for the common people for the audience. We have the link for you to join. And good morning to everyone if you are watching from US, and good evening for all the people who are watching from India and Bangladesh region. If you're watching in future, please maybe good morning, good afternoon, good evening, like whenever you're watching it. Okay. So yes, last week we had a pretty good response. Lots of people have watched it. I have seen, and even though I did not get much time to explain the video in Bengali, but it seems we have a pretty educated audience, and they've watched it by themselves and had some questions. If you have any questions today, you can join. You can join as a guest, and you can ask directly your question from so like based on your column. If you have any questions, if you need any clarification, if you have anything else to say on Kalam cosmological argument, you can join our stream and you can ask me or Dr. Carlo. You can ask Dr. Alvaro. You can ask those questions. We'll try to answer. We'll try to clarify, but there is no debate or something like that. So if you are joining the stream, please maintain the decorum, and please maintain that the courtesy also. And so we'll continue our live. Okay, so Dr. Alvaro, thank you for joining our stream once again. Really appreciate that you are sparing some time for us. I know this is a Father's Day for you. You have something planned, so your family might have planned something, but still you have joined. I really great honor, and thank you so much. We some of our colleagues and some of our audience, should they also have watched the live last week also. They may have some questions. We'll have those
Sure.
questions also if someone joins over there today. And sir, we will try to clarify the question maybe directed to me or you also. Okay. So for the audience, one thing, yeah, last week it was not a debate at all. It was not anything about the rebuttal or something like that, or debunking Kalam cosmological argument or establishing Kalam cosmological argument or something like that. It was just sharing knowledge, sharing our views, discussing those things. So that was the main point last time. I do not personally do not like any debate or something like that online, because if you see most of the academics when they debate, so they publish their papers and they give enough time for the opponent to think about it and analyze that, and if they have any relevant issues, relevant points, they also listen to that, and then only they respond on that. So most of the academic debate you will see, those are on the published papers. You will never see that Alan Guth or Roger Penrose or someone like that, okay, if they do not agree with each other, they do not just open a stream and start debating and just like cursing each other. It never happens like that. There are debates, there are different point of views, even in maths also, science also, physics, chemistry, everywhere, even in evolutionary biology also. So, and these people are like evolutionary biologists. These people are scientists, physicists, chemists, doctor, maybe someone maybe philosopher. They just don't open a stream and just start shouting at each other or something like that. They publish papers and they discuss on that. Okay, they give the opponent enough time to think about it and put their point of view and discuss and explain their point of view, and the other people also, they listen to that carefully, go through those intricate details of those points. So that is how we do it. So for our stream also, it is not it is not a my motto is not, or my basic idea in this today's session, these sessions, these live streams, is not a debate or something like that. It is just a discussion. If you have any other thoughts, other point of view, please. Okay. Shota Chandani bhai is asking, can I join? Yes, definitely, sir. You can join. Absolutely, absolutely. Anyone can join. Please join. And we have the backstage. We do not have anyone yet. Okay. If anyone would like to join, please join. Here is the stream once again, and the stream, the joining link once again. I will just post it, and then we'll continue. Okay. So we'll continue today. We'll continue our discussion with Dr. Alvaro. Okay, so so over there we did not last week. We talked about few points and we did not talk about a lot of things. We did not talk about. So we'd like to know from Dr. Alvaro in detail. Okay, so we'd like to show Dr. Alvaro today. We would like to discuss about little more about the contradictions. We would like to talk about those things a little bit. Okay. So could you please explain and could you please, last week we were talking about the Grim Reaper paradox. Can we start just for the sake of interest of the audience? Okay. Can we start discussing about that, sir? Dr. Alvaro?
Specifically the Grim Reaper.
Yes, that's specifically the Grim
Okay.
Reaper. Yes.
Well, the Grim Reaper paradox is one of the many paradoxes that have been formulated to in order to show that there is something contradictory, or at least very very strange about an infinity of moments or an infinity of items. And the Grim Reaper paradox, essentially, I don't know, for just for the benefit of the audience, for those of you who don't know it, the Grim Reaper paradox, it's a thought experiment that, as I said, is meant to show that an infinity of moments um, leads to some either contradictions or to some very strange consequences. Now, the Grim Reaper paradox, you know what a Grim Reaper is, right? So imagine that the thought experiment goes like this. It's it's 11:30 right now, and by midnight there is a Grim Reaper that will strike you dead if you're still alive at midnight. Okay. Now, at but at 11:30, okay, there is another Grim Reaper, and who will kill you if you're still alive at 11:30. And then at 11:15, there's another Grim Reaper that will kill you if you're still alive at 11:15. And then there's another one at 11:07 that will kill you if you're still alive at that time. And so you see where this is going. You you divide you have the time each time. So there's going to be another one at 11:03, at 11 and 01, et cetera, et cetera. And the idea is because you can divide the time infinitely many times, right? So between 11 p.m. and midnight, there's going to be an infinity, an actual infinity of Grim Reapers. Now, according to the thought experiment, here's the fun part of it. Because there is an infinity of Grim Reaper, each of which will kill you at a designated time, it looks like by midnight you would have to be dead, right? Because after all, there's a Grim Reaper there at midnight who will do the job. But that Grim Reaper, apparently, according the thought experiment is not going to kill you. Why? Because there is a previous Grim Reaper who will kill you at that time. But that Grim Reaper is not going to kill you either. Why? Because there's a previous one who is going to kill you at a previous time. And so on and on and on, off to infinity. So the conclusion to this thought experiment is that, and that it, there lies the contradiction, is that by midnight you would have to be dead, but you cannot be dead because there's an infinity of Grim Reapers. And so you will never get killed. Right? So this is supposed to show that there's a contradiction, the inherent contradiction with the idea, with the notion that there could be an infinity of things or an infinity of temporal sequences or an infinity of items, such that you would have to intuitively you would have to give up the idea of an actual infinity. So that's the Grim Reaper paradox in a nutshell, and the the important relevance to the Kalam cosmological argument is that because the Kalam and the arguments in support of the premises of the Kalam, specifically of premise 2 of the Kalam, they attempt to block the past infinity, right? So the relevance is that if the universe were eternal, that would mean that prior to the present today, there would be an infinity of moments, an infinity of years, an infinity of temporal sequences, and so if the Grim Reaper is correct, it's one logical tool that shows us that there's something either contradictory or very strange about an infinity of past moments. That's the what the Grim Reaper is used for.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Alvaro. We have two guests on the studio who has joined. One is Kolki and Shutta Shandhani. Shutta Shandhani bhai, how are you doing today?
Hello, Dr. Amit and Dr. Carlos. How are you guys doing today?
Pretty good,
Yeah,
thank you.
good. Yeah, good. Thank you so
Hi.
much. Thank you so much for joining the stream. Thank you so much, Shutta Shandhani bhai, for joining the stream.
Thanks
So,
for adding.
Okay, for Dr. Alvaro. So, Shuttir Shandhani, the word Shuttir Shandhani, it means in search of truth. The person who is in search for truth. Shandhani, it means who is seeking, and Shuttir means it is actually the truth. They are seeking for the truth. So, Shuttir Shandhani has its own like a channel, so with the same name, Shuttir Shandhani, and it is a quite famous. Lots of people join. Almost they stream almost each and every day. They mostly discuss about science and technologies. Sometimes they discuss about religion also and philosophy also. We have in that channel. We have few regular participants like Bash Bihari and other people who are very educated on philosophy. So thank you, Shotha Shani bhai. Welcome to the stream. Please go ahead. If you have any questions, please go ahead, unmute, and you may go ahead.
No, thank you so much. I was just curious what Dr. Alvaro has to say about the existence of a deity. So I believe he is a deist, so he does not subscribe to any religion. So, what is your view on what this deity is? What is its nature, or is it a like? he, if I say him, is it, does that, is it appropriate to say that? Or, you know, I just would like to know how, or how you know, or what you think it is.
It's interesting because I always say I think it's more appropriate to say her, because if there is a deity that creates the universe, although today is Father's Day, I have to say
Yes.
I think it's more appropriate to say her, she, because typically men don't create anything. It's women that give life to beings. So probably it's more appropriate to say her. It's a she. It's not a he. But
Okay.
that's a that's an important point. But anyway, in the reason why I by the way, I'm a strange kind of deist. If you read my book about deism, I explain the kind of deist, the kind of divinity that I have in mind. Because, and I say strange because in most cases, deism is the idea for many people, the idea that there is a either an impersonal deity. If you think about Aristotle, I guess maybe, although it might be anachronistic to describe Aristotle as a deist, but when you think about Aristotle, he was some kind of a deist because he believed in the unmoved mover. And as far as I understand, for Aristotle, this unmoved mover, this God, was not a personal God. And in most cases, it's not a personal God. In my view of deism, this creator of the universe must be personal. But personal, however, this divinity does not have a an active relationship with us, with human beings. And one of the reasons that I explain in my book is because this divinity, it does not exist in time. It is not a temporal person, and so that's the reason why we have free will. Um, we experience also evil and suffering in this world, uh, because this divinity created the universe, and the laws of the universe, but he does not have, or she, as I said, she does not have a an active relationship with humans. Now, what else? What can we know? You were asking me, what can we know about this divinity? Not very much. We can know, I argue, that she created the universe. She created certain laws. She is the paradigm of morality and um, the laws of nature and the laws of logic, and not very much else. Whether there's a paradise, or whether there is a hell, whether there's an afterlife, we cannot know all those details, as
Okay.
religions uh, often claim that we can know all those details, but we cannot. That's my view.
Okay, thank you. I have one more follow-up question, and this question
Sure,
has like several sub questions in it.
sure.
So, so the main thing is, were you born into any existing religion, for example, Christianity, Islam, or anything else? And why did you decide to leave that or not to follow that? That's the first question. And next is, have you considered any religion to be true? or
Okay.
correct?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. So I was born in Italy, and I grew up in Italy. Now, as you probably know, Italy is famous for their Catholic tradition. But specifically myself, I was not brought up in a religious family. If you were to ask my mom and my dad, they would tell you that there's a God, but not very specific. If you were to push them, they would tell you that Christianity is true, but neither my mom nor my dad knew anything about Christianity. As far as I know, they never attended church. They never went to church. We never talked about religion in the house. So I was not educated or brought up in I would say in any specific religion. It was, however, this question of the existence of God that led me to studying philosophy. I started wondering. I started asking myself whether there is more than just the universe that we observe, whether there's a God, and that led me to my passion in philosophy and studying and reading more and more and more about philosophy, and specifically philosophy of religion and the existence of God. Now, to answer your second question, I don't believe that any religion is true. Now, obviously, I have not had the chance to study all the religions, so I'm quite familiar with Christianity and Islam, Judaism, because supposedly they are they're talking about the same God, but from three different perspectives. And one of the reasons why I don't believe that any religion uh, is true, they could be true. I'm not excluding the fact that they could be true, but from my perspective, the problem is that the only way for us human beings to know religion is scripture. And when you look at the scripture, you begin with the idea that they were written, all scriptures were written by human beings. So there's no reason to trust that these human beings were inspired by a divinity. A lot of religions, in my view at least, uh, when you read these scriptures, take the Bible as an example. And I want to be respectful. I don't want to offend anyone, so don't take it uh, in an offensive way. But from my perspective, when I read the Bible, I see lots and lots and lots of contradictions, inconsistencies, very weird, very strange ideas like stoning people, killing people, genocide, racism. Now, of course, you have to you have to enter into a discussion about scholarship and interpretation and all that. And from my perspective, there's no room for interpretations or not. If, in my personal view, if a scripture, if a book, a holy book, is holy and inspired by a divinity, a perfect divinity, it would have to have very little way of explaining around why God said commands to destroy a whole village or a whole population and so on. So I don't believe that any religion is true. Furthermore, my main reason is because my idea uh, of God, if there is a God, and I'm always say if there is because I'm not 100% sure. But if there is a God, it seems to me that this God, the way that we describe it as omnipotent, well, maybe it might not be omnipotent. We don't know that. But clearly, extremely powerful in order to create the universe and to create being. Okay. So also, if this God is as I argue, the paradigm of goodness, and so the paradigm of morality, it must be the case that we are talking about a sublime entity, and most of the world's religions, when they describe God, they describe God as vindictive, jealous. They attribute to God these anthropomorphic, these human characteristics, um, punishing, hell, uh, things that to me, aspects of a divinity that to me don't sound very divine. And so that's another reason why I don't believe that any religion is true.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Dr. Alvaro. I'll talk to you guys later. I'm jumping off. So see you later. Bye.
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Satyaswami, for
Thank
joining the
you.
stream. And I'm sorry
Okay.
I did not see your message earlier. I just
No,
now
sure.
saw your message. Okay.
No,
I'm
that's fine.
extremely sorry. Okay.
No, that's
I
fine.
was just
Okay.
getting
That,
ready for to like just preparing the stream. You can
right.
stay also. I would suggest if you wish. I would suggest you can stay.
No, I have
Because
to. I have to start my
okay,
stream
your stream.
in
Yeah, yeah, sure.
yeah another channel. Okay. So have a good rest of your day. Bye bye.
Same to you.
You too. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. A few things. Okay, so those people for the this is for the audience. Those people who are waiting on the backstage, to please wait. We will add everyone one by one. If you have any questions, you will definitely listen to that. And for rest of the audience who are just listening to the stream, we will definitely. I did not get much time to just explain the stream last week's stream in Bengali. I just did not get the time any time, so I could not do that. But definitely this time will do. And right now, if you have any question, you can ask the question in Bengali as well. I will translate that question for you. Okay, for Dr. Alvaro, I will definitely translate that question, and his answer also I will translate for you. If you wish, anyone can join. Just to say reiterate that in Bengali, যারা যারা যুক্ত হতে চান তারা সকলেই যুক্ত হতে পারেন, কোনো অসুবিধা নেই। যুক্ত হয়ে আপনার প্রশ্ন করতে পারেন। আগের দিনের যে স্ট্রিমটা সেটা আমি বাংলায় করার মতো সময় পাইনি, সেজন্য খুবই দুঃখিত, আন্তরিকভাবে দুঃখিত। তবে এই স্ট্রিমটা অবশ্যই আমি পরবর্তীকালে বাংলাতে এক্সপ্লেন করে দেবো। আপনারা যদি কেউ যুক্ত হতে চান এবং মনে করেন যে বাংলা ইংলিশ ভালো জানি না বলে প্রশ্ন করতে পারছি না, আপনারা প্রশ্নটা বাংলাতেও করতে পারেন। আমি সেই প্রশ্নটা আমি অবশ্যই সেটা ট্রান্সলেট করে দেবো, সেটা অনুবাদ করে দেবো, এবং ডক্টর আলভারোর যা উত্তর সেই উত্তরও আমি আপনার জন্য ট্রান্সলেট করে দেবো। যারা যারা ব্যাকস্টেজে যুক্ত হচ্ছেন একটুখানি অপেক্ষা করুন, আমরা অবশ্যই আপনার কাছে আসবো। হ্যাঁ, আর অবশ্যই আপনাকে যুক্ত করা হবে। যারা যারা ব্যাকস্টেজে আছেন একটুখানি অপেক্ষা করুন, আমরা কল্কির সাথে কথা বলে তারপরে আমরা আপনাদের কাছে আসবো। কল্কি, আমার কথা শুনে যাচ্ছে? ক্যান ইউ হিয়ার মি?
Yes. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for joining the stream. We really appreciate that.
Thank you,
And
thank you for joining me here, and it's a really great thing to talk, to get a chance to talk with you and such a great person like Dr. Carlo Alvaro. So thank you so much. I have a question the regarding regarding physical information, which also physics now considered as a element of the universe. So
mhm.
is there any
Yes, please go
how
ahead. You can ask your
okay,
question,
so how
please.
Dr. Alvaro uh, seeing it or thinking it that information or consciousness is it can be element of the universe. So what about the think about what do you
Kolke,
think about it? Yeah.
Kolke, before could you, may I ask you to ask this question in Bengali first, so that I also understand properly what is your intention, what you're asking actually. Could you please ask this question in Bengali once?
ওকে, ওকে। সো আমার যেটা কথা ছিল যে ফিজিক্সের ক্ষেত্রে আপনার ৬ টার মতো এলিমেন্ট ধরা হয় ইউনিভার্সের জন্য। সো টাইম
Mm-hmm.
স্পেস ইউনিভার্সের ক্ষেত্রে। সো তার
Mm-hmm.
মধ্যে এনার্জি আছে, ফিল্ড আছে, দেন আপনার হচ্ছে
Mm-hmm.
ইনফরমেশন আছে। সো বা ইনফরমেশনকে অনেকটা কনসিয়াসনেস এর কাছাকাছি ধরা হচ্ছে এখন বর্তমান ফিজিক্সের অনুসারে।
Mm-hmm.
সো
Mm-hmm.
এটার সম্পর্কে ডক্টর আলভারোর মতামত জানতে চাচ্ছিলাম। ইনফরমেশন অ্যান্ড কনসিয়াসনেস এই ২ টাকে কিভাবে দেখতেছেন? অ্যান্ড উনি যেহেতু আলাদাভাবে গডের এক্সিস্টেন্স এ বিলিভ করতেছেন, অ্যান্ড এটা তো কনসিয়াসনেস এর কাছাকাছি আরকি বলা হচ্ছে। তো তার মতামত কি এই সম্পর্কে?
Sure. So, Dr. Alvaro, you might have already noticed that in while speaking in Bengali, we use lots of word in English in between, and you might have already got some of them. Okay. Sure. But Kolke is, have you got the question asked by Kolke?
Well, I know that it's about consciousness. You want to know something about consciousness, but what specifically
Sure.
are you
He's
asking
saying,
about consciousness?
yeah, sure. Like in physics, we have time, we have this electromagnetic
Mhm.
fields, we have like quantum fields and all those things. Sure. Now these days, the consensus is that information is also gives rise to consciousness, or it is almost it is one of the fundamental property is information. Okay, so what is your take on that? What is your how do you see this one from your perspective or philosophical perspective? How do you see that? Is it right, Kalke? Am I representing it properly,
Yeah,
Kalke?
yeah, but information and consciousness, how he
How they are related?
his point of view, yeah, how he
Okay.
saw it related.
Yeah, sure. What is your sure, Dr. Alvaro? So he's asking that
Yes,
in your point of view. Yeah,
I'm not
please.
100% sure I understand the question, but consciousness, uh, the the um, the interesting aspect about consciousness is that it has been a huge problem for science and for philosophy as well, because it seems just impossible to reduce consciousness to something biological or something materialistic, material. It's impossible to do that. So it seems that consciousness is a fundamental property that human beings have. And when you think about it, even materialists, those people who try to explain consciousness in terms of physics, in terms of material, okay, biology, they have to lately in if you are following the discussion in the philosophy of mind, these individuals have to resort to extravagant theories, like, for example, the theory that says that everything is conscious, right? Or that consciousness is the matrix of reality, like for example, metaphysical idealists, right? And the reason is because it is very hard to accept or to even explain in principle how you get consciousness from biology, right? So that to me is one of the many reasons why I believe that that there must be a God, because our conscious experience is not a physical property of the universe. It must be a non-physical. So in that sense, I would um, I would agree with people like Descartes, right, who are metaphysical dualists. I believe that there is a physical world, but the physical world is just physical. There's no information, if you to use your language, or consciousness, conscious experience. That's as much as I can say based on what I understood your question.
How is it,
Okay,
Kalpulke?
but
Did you get it?
but
Yes, please.
okay, I get the thought of Alvaro, but my question was that nowadays information is the one of the basic and fundamental elements of the universe, aside uh, energy and uh, particles and other thing, time space
So
universe.
information is
So
considered to be the one of the basic fundamental element of the universe, right?
yeah,
You mean to
so
say? Yeah. Okay.
information it is uh, kind of same thing of consciousness, but this is not the consciousness according
Well,
physics.
information seems to be the product of consciousness.
Yeah, so
If you want to
what is
say
your
from
thought about it?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you intend that information in the sense, for example, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm maybe what you have in mind is information in the sense, let's say, take DNA, right? The building blocks of life, DNA. When they sequenced DNA, they studied DNA. They saw that there's a certain pattern, there's information. So biologists typically talk about DNA embedding the information of life. If you mean that kind of information in that sense, I agree that information does not arise by accident. There is very well, if not very often, always, I would say, there is behind that, there is a mind, a rational mind that brings it into existence. So in that sense, I would say information is the product of mind, but mind is more fundamental than information. So information is the product of mind.
Okay, and I am not a philosopher, but maybe I will be. So
That's good.
yeah, a uh, I already proved a new logical system, and it is now it is now on review in Springer Nature's Junthizo, and I also have a paper on quantum logic, and which I submit few days ago. So submitted. So uh, my point of view that I am also I have a uh, philosophy on religion, and I want to establish a religion named Shankal. So
Mhm.
but it is uh, almost same kind of philosophy like you, but I think it is more structured, and I have some steps of the philosophy, and the the main step of this philosophy is uh, to get nirvan. Do you hear about nirvan?
So he is talking about Dr. Alvaro. He is talking about nirvana. Nirvana means it is from the
Yeah,
Buddhist philosophy. So
yeah. I'm
um,
familiar with that, with the
yeah,
concept of
Yeah,
nirvana. Yes.
so uh, Gautam Buddha or Buddha said, to get the desire, to get relief from desire is the nirvana. And another avatar, whose name is Krishna in Hinduism, he said that to get relief from uh, the feelings of humans and other thing, uh, is the path to get nirvana. But I said that, I say that, we the it is comes from both. There is no perfect word in English which can translate the word both. But i i I can say that it is kind of understanding. And I have
Kolke, do you have anything related to our Kalam cosmological argument? Sorry to interrupt you. Extremely sorry for being rude. কলকি কালাম কসমোলজিক্যাল আর্গুমেন্ট সম্পর্কে কিছু আছে তোমার প্রশ্ন? হ্যালো কলকে, ডক্টর আলভারো, ক্যান ইউ হিয়ার? আই এম নট বিং এবল টু হিয়ার হিম এট অল।
I can hear you. I can hear. I cannot hear Kalki. Yeah, but
Okay.
as Amit was pointing out, I thought that um,
Yes,
this
we will
this
mostly.
this podcast was about the cosmological argument.
Yes,
I mean,
exactly.
it's a great thing. I'm really happy for you if you and feel free to maybe forward me your papers. I'll be glad to read them. Very interesting. But today we're talking about the cosmological argument.
Yes, absolutely correct. I would like to, so we will not like to deviate, okay, so because philosophy is such a vast, like a subject. It is, yeah, sure, it is such a vast field that we can talk about that ages, okay. So we'll not deviate from the topic. So we have another two guests on the studio today. So one is another thinker, and we have messenger of the prophet. So we'll first go to another thinker, not another thinker, another thinker. My mistake. Another thinker, are you there? Could you please unmute
Uh,
your mic and talk?
yes, yes.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining the stream. And our discussion is about Kalam cosmological argument. So Dr. Carlo Alvaro, as you know, he is a proponent of Kalam cosmological argument. I would like you to keep your questions within that point. Okay, so relate to that. Okay.
Yeah, you said I can speak in English, right? Because
Yes, you
this
can
is
speak
a
in English. Today we
You
will
you
not.
can speak in English or in Italian if you know Italian, but
no,
those are the
I
only
don't.
languages that I know.
No, I only speak Hindi, Bengali, and English. So yeah, that's
If you speak in
that's
Italian, then I will not understand. Okay, so then it will be for
All
me. It
right.
will be a pathetic condition to translate it later. Then I have to learn Italian. Only Italian I know. So that is Una Mattina, that song. Okay, that's all. So
oh no.
yes,
Yeah, I
please.
only
Thank
speak.
you.
Yeah, yeah. So I wanted to talk about the successive addition argument that I heard you talk about last stream.
Yes.
Like you were saying that if we start counting, we would never reach infinity,
Right.
and that goes same for the past. Well, I mean, I think you've already heard these responses, but I would just like to ask you again. Like, I don't think so. It's the same for the past because the past is essentially beginningless,
Hmm.
and like when we start counting from one, like my point will be that if you start from a certain point, you will never reach infinity, and I can grant you that. But this is not going to be same as when the past is already infinite, which is beginningless.
Uh-huh.
Then
Hmm.
at that point, you have to sort of argue that if you can't have actual i- infinite past, then the argument shifts. So I don't think so. The successive addition argument is that strong. That would be like my first point. What do you think about that?
Okay. So what I had a full discussion about this with Alex Malpass. You might, maybe you watched the video. I don't know. You want to watch a video?
Oh, I did. I like
Okay.
so I will.
So
Yeah.
yes. So in my view, there is no reason to argue that. I'm sorry, I hear a lot of noise in the background.
No,
Yeah, I
it's
think
okay.
that.
I'll mute. I'll mute.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
yeah. Thank you so much, Arun.
So in my view, there is no reason, we don't have any right to say that it is not it is not the same with regard to the past. So in my view, there are no good reasons. What good argument could one present in support of that? It is not enough for me to say, well, intuitively, it is not the same. My intuition doesn't follow that, because think about it this way. It's not as if we are panning the camera, right? Turning backwards and looking at the universe in retrospect. Because the universe, if the universe is a collection of temporal moments formed by successive addition, then these moments grow in the forward direction, in the later than direction. Okay. And so you have this situation where you have moment after moment after moment after moment going in the later than direction. Okay. Now, if you agree that an infinity of things, like an infinity of coins or pizzas or stamps or computers, an infinity, an actual infinity of them, never ends. So if you were to have a collection that contains an infinity of items, you would be counting forever and never reach the end. We agree. You have agreed with that. Well then,
Yes.
well then, by the same token, if you are willing to assume that, for the sake of argument, that the universe in the past does not have a beginning, and that the the collection of moments that make up, that form the universe, is an infinity of them, well then, by the same logical process, what we infer is that it would be impossible to enumerate all the temporal moments, right? So going forward, the universe, the moments in the universe going forward from the past going toward the present, will never end, because a collection that contains an infinity, an actual infinity of items, doesn't end. So whether you go in one direction or another direction, it has to be the same. And there's no reason for me to even believe. If you have an argument, I would like to hear it. But I've never heard any good supporting argument as to why it's not the same for the past. The second point is that, again, there is an argument that shows that successive addition will never get you to the infinite. And the way that the universe has formed the present moment that we're speaking is through successive addition. And so it would be impossible in my mind to arrive here. And the third point, my third argument, is that, as I explained last week, is a little bit, if you think about Zeno's paradox, right? Zeno's paradox is supposed to show that by dividing something, what are you doing? It essentially is to form a finite collection. So the point is that you you never get to the end uh, of an infinite collection, right? So moment after moment, and the question is this. This is the important point. That if it's true that there are an infinity of moments prior to today, the logical metaphysical problem is to explain how you go from one event to the next. Not only, you see what I mean? Not only how you go from an infinity, from past infinity to today. The problem is to explain how you go from the infinity to the next moment. Because before you get there, like for example, take arbitrarily a moment in time in the past of the universe. Let's say, let's go back to the Romans, right? To the first century, and you're asking how many temporal moments exist from past infinity to the first century. It's an infinity, right? And any point in time in the past that you choose, there will always be an infinity of moments. And so that makes it really inexplainable how you go from the infinity of the past to any moment in the timeline. See, much less how do you get here to the present from past infinity. So for these at least three reasons, and there are more, I don't think that we have a right to say that you cannot count or enumerate an infinity starting now going forward, but it's different when you consider the past. There's no right, I think, that we have to infer that it's different, unless you can present some good argument to show me that it is not symmetrical. But I haven't heard one. And so to me, it doesn't matter whether you're going forward or backwards, or from the past to the present, or from the present to the future. It seems to me that it's the same story. If you're talking about an infinity of items, you cannot enumerate an infinity of items. Everybody agrees to that. So if you cannot enumerate an infinity of items, and you suppose that the universe, reality, is composed of an infinity of items, it seems to me to follow that you cannot enumerate it. And if you cannot enumerate all those items, then there's no right to say that the present moment exists as a result of the enumerating an infinity of items. That's the way I see it.
Well, I think you're sort of using the same talking point as William Lane Craig. He also sort of says that, well, it's the same thing, right? But I think you guys are sort of making it
I'm not
seem like,
sure what William Lane Craig says about that.
oh, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. Okay, so it's sort of like you guys are sort of plugging in the fact that somebody has to traverse the infinite to get to the present. But I'm not arguing for that. I'm just saying
Mhm.
the past has been always infinite, and we're just adding new
Yes.
things to it. You're adding new stuff to it. And I don't see why you can't add new things to an infinite past because it didn't have a beginning. So you're like essentially adding, the Roman era, then you're adding the modern era to it. So the past has already been infinite. I don't know if
Sure.
I mean, so
Sure, but the point is that the past, look, the point is it's not as if the present moment already exists, right? And and you go, it's like imagine you have a like a ruler or a timeline, okay, and the zero or whichever number you want arbitrarily, this notch on the ruler is the let's say this notch here, well, let's say this one, like my pinky finger, is the present, okay, and the present is right there, and there is a the moment before and the moment before and the one before that and the one before that, all the way to infinity. I mean, that's the wrong way of thinking about it because it's not as if the present moment is already here, and then you ask, but what's before that? Oh, there's an infinity of moments, but because there is a last moment of the series, slowly but surely you get to the end, although there is an infinity of moments before. But clearly that's not the correct way of thinking about it. The point is that the present moment is not that the present moment always has been present. The present moment is the result of an addition. Now, if you if you look at the past, there is no starting point, obviously, because if you're willing to argue that there could be an infinity of past moments, there's no present, there's no first moment, right? That's the idea. But then, as I pointed out, you have two problems, at least three problems at least. I mean, one is that there is no starting point. The second problem is that if there is no starting point, you keep pushing back and back and back and back, and there is an infinity in between. But if there is an infinity, an actual infinity, it means that, well, there is an actual infinity, and no one can enumerate an actual infinity. So whether William Lane Craig says that, I don't know what he says, or whether my uncle Bob says that. The problem is that you have to explain how you can enumerate an actual infinity of temporal sequences. And by the very definition of an actual infinity, you cannot enumerate an infinity of items. And so what I'm pointing out is you have got to have some robust argument to show that it's even conceptually possible. Now, with my discussion with Alex Malpass, the only thing that I heard from Alex Malpass is it's not the same. Well, it's not the same is not a good argument. You have got to give me a good argument. Now, his reply was, I don't have to give you an argument because I don't actually argue that that's true, but I'm just arguing that that's possible. Well, I mean, possibility for possibility, it's possible that there is a sour prune on Mars, but you see, unless you have some good evidence, some good argument, some good reason to believe that it's possible, I don't know what to do with it.
I think it's not just Alex Malpass. I think a lot of people who sort of say that infinity could be possible will just say that they're agnostic. And even
Yeah.
I lean towards agnosticism, and I think that even from like your side, I don't really see any good arguments too. So I don't know why I should say that the infinity is not possible rather than it is. I mean, I guess I haven't seen arguments, good arguments from both sides. That's the problem, right? I
Hmm.
don't think so. So I don't know why you would choose to sort of be in the side that it's not possible than it is possible. So that's just like my thing. And also like once again, like I guess you're plugging in the fact that somebody has to traverse the infinite. The past has always been infinite. I know it seems weird to you, maybe because of your intuitions, but I just don't see the problem with my intuitions there. Like, why can't you have a beginningless past which just keeps adding on? And I guess also it depends on our the theory of time. I think that's also kind of relevant, although I don't think so. It has a major effect on the overall argument. I mean, I just don't know. Are you agnostic? Like, you don't seem to be agnostic about it. So I would just ask you why you're not agnostic.
Well, I'm not agnostic because, as I explained to you, I have many reasons why. We were discussing, for example, last week we were discussing various paradoxes like the Hilbert's Hotel and Thomson's Lamp and the Grim Reaper paradox that we were discussing earlier today. Those are three very good arguments. Now you can say to me, well, still they don't really show what I want, and that's fine. But then I just gave you three additional arguments, right? And when you combine all these arguments together, well, at one point your intuition breaks, and you have to you have to think what's more plausible, right? So in other words, I have all these arguments showing me that an infinity cannot exist. I have all these arguments to show that an infinity of things cannot be enumerated or traversed. And so my conclusion can only be that. That's why I'm not agnostic, because um, the concept of an actual infinity of things is, to me, is contradictory based on the arguments that I have studied. So that's why I'm not agnostic. Now, if you were to present an argument for me that I can chew on, that would be great, because it would move me from my position to a more agnostic position. But right now, the way I see it, an infinity of things cannot be traversed. And if the universe is an infinity of things, it can't be traversed. And so I don't believe that the universe has an infinity of moments prior to today. That's my reason.
Well, I mean, as you said, you gave also three additional arguments. I would just say that they don't sort of appeal to me as much as they do to you. So, I mean, that's the core of the issue, right? Some people are going to like not agree with those three
Okay,
additional
but
arguments.
let me ask you a question. What would be the reason why they don't? You don't have to answer now, by the way. Okay, I don't want to put you on the spot, but what I always ask is, why why is it that your intuition is not persuaded by such arguments? And there are many arguments, because when you think about it, on the one hand, philosophers like me have presented many arguments against an infinity of things. People like Aristotle, or mathematicians, many great philosophers. But on the other side, I don't know any philosopher who has presented arguments, robust arguments, to even show how you could possibly form or have a collection that contains an actual infinity of things. So what reason is there for you not to be persuaded? That's fascinating to me. But as I said, you don't have to answer now, but I think if you can give me that reason, as I said, that I can chew on, I might be inclined, I might change my mind. I'm open to changing my mind because, as I said last week, I don't have any religious affiliation, so I can abandon all these points without any problem because it doesn't. These points. So my religious faith does not depend on that because I don't have a religious faith or commitment. You see, so I'm willing to change my mind as long as I have some good arguments for it.
Well, I would just say that I can imagine the past sort of being beginningless and also being added to. And I don't know if this is analogous, but like for example, like um negative. For example, in the number line, you from -2, there's like an infinite amount of numbers into the sort of like backwards, right? And from -1, there's also an infinite number of things backwards. But it
Right.
seems to me that -1 and -2 are not the same thing. And you might just say,
Sure.
well, how is that analogous to the present? Because it does seem like then you might ask where in the number line we are currently, right?
Oh,
You might
sure,
ask that
but
question.
then wouldn't that be? Listen, wouldn't that be an argument in favor of what I'm arguing for? Because think about it. How many natural numbers are there? Positive. An infinity, right? Okay. Is it possible to enumerate all positive natural numbers? The answer is no. I'm sure you would agree with that, right? But then now imagine negative numbers. If the natural numbers, the number of natural numbers, positive numbers, is an actual infinity, doesn't that follow that the number of negative numbers is an actual infinity? It seems to me that it follows, right? It follows logically.
Yes, it is.
Now,
Yes. Okay.
if it is impossible to traverse the positive numbers, and you agree that the natural positive numbers is the same cardinality, has the same cardinality of the negative ones, then that's an argument in favor of what I'm saying, because it shows that it's not possible to go from infinite negative infinity to zero, right? I mean, if
Well,
you are willing to invoke numbers mathematics, then it doesn't look good for your position. It looks good for my position because it is symmetrical. Unless you have some arguments to say no, when it comes to negative numbers, they are different. I don't see why they would be different. And if negative numbers and positive numbers are the same, and you can't do something here, you cannot do something there either. And that would be an additional argument against traversing or enumerating or counting down from infinity to zero.
well, I would just say that the negative numbers are like beginningless, and the positive numbers are endless. And I think those distinctions are very important here. So the negative numbers do come to an end, and you might be like, well, that's not really analogous to reality. But I would just say, in my intuitions, I think it's very analogous that a
But if they come to
beginningless.
an end, they're not in. It's not an infinite. Look, if they come to an end, then that collection was not a collection that contained an actual infinity of things after all. Because the very definition of an actual infinity is something that never comes to an end. And so how do you explain the end?
No, but if I'm getting it right, you were saying that the positive and the negative numbers are sort of the same, right? So you would say
Not the
there's
same.
a
They are symmetrical. They are analogous. If there is an
so
infinity of positive numbers, there must be an infinity of negative numbers. And if you cannot traverse the positive, why give me a good reason why you think that you can traverse the negative?
well, I mean, I would just say that and I would just ask you that I don't think so. There's necessarily a contradiction in here saying that the negative infinity we can like the negative infinity can come to an end, like it can end at zero,
Yeah.
but it's just sort of like I think more about intuitions. And I would actually say that I haven't seen any good arguments which actually do solidify the fact that from a beginningless past, I mean, you can come here, but at the same time, I don't really see
Well,
why.
I just gave you half a dozen of those arguments. I can give you another one. If it were possible to, let's say it were possible to, let's assume going with your intuition that the past is an actual infinity of temporal moments. Now, let's assume that for each temporal moment, there's a signpost, okay, that says, I'm here, right? All the way down to the present moment, okay? Now, if there is a signpost for every moment in the past and the present moment has arrived, to me, to my mind, it seems possible to now go back and touch each individual signpost that says, here, I'm here. Touch each one. But the problem soon arises. If there is an actual infinity of moments, it means that an actual infinity of signposts has been deposited, has been placed at each moment, and it would be impossible to touch them all. Even if you're immortal and you will never die, you have all the time in the world, you will never be able to touch them all. Why? Because there is an infinity of them. But what does that mean, an infinity of them? It means that there is an actual infinity. You never get to the end. But then how did you get here? In my mind, it is just puzzling to think that you could actually go from an infinity all the way here and place a token or a signpost or whatever you want. In one of my papers, I use the staircase as an analogy, where you have an infinity of steps, and if you're willing to say that it is possible to traverse a staircase that has an infinity of steps, and you can actually walk down all the way down to the lobby, it seems to me that by that very logical thought experiment, you would have to be able to go back. But as soon as you say go back, your mind starts frying, because go back where? There's nowhere to go. Because if you look back at the staircase, there is an actual infinity of steps. and you will be traveling forever. You will be walking on the steps forever. Now, logically, my mind tells me, but how is it possible that you can walk down from infinity and arrive in the lobby of the building, or walk over the last step on the staircase, but then if you go back, you will travel forever? That doesn't make sense. How is it that going from infinity to the last step on a staircase, you can complete that task in a finite amount of time, but then going back is not possible because you will be walking and walking and walking forever? That doesn't make sense to me. So that's
Well,
another reason.
well, I would just say nobody ever walked the stairs in the first place because there is no beginning, and I think this is what I'm trying to emphasize again and again, that I think the analogy to me doesn't make that much intuitional sense, because like I just think nobody ever did traverse it. The past was always infinite, so you're just adding into the past, and I don't
No,
know.
and I think so there is one problem you were even most probably you did not notice about that. So the question, if I ask the question that how many positive integers are there, so you will say that positive integers are infinite. Now, if I ask that will you be able to count them all, then you should ask me how much time do you have? It is a finite number of time or infinite number of time. If I say you have infinite number of time, if I say you have a finite amount of time, then you should say that no, it is not possible, you cannot count. But if I say you have an infinite number of time, then you should say yes, it is possible to count them all. Infinite number can be counted within infinity. Now, if someone says that, now see, how is that possible? Suppose I should now, suppose Iqbal Bhai has joined and Iqbal Bhai has started counting from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When he reaches to 10 to the power 64, okay, you ask, Iqbal Bhai, have you completed counting? He says, no, I did not. Then you ask him that how much is it left? He says that an infinite number of numbers are left. Okay. So now, then you say that, see, Iqbal bhai, you have not finished your counting. How did you say that you could finish the counting? Iqbal bhai will tell you that whenever you are asking him, this is not an infinite number of time. So if given infinite amount of time, you really can count infinite, really infinite. Another problem here, what I feel, okay, so today we have Iqbal Bhai also. Iqbal Bhai will give you the floor also as well. And so the thing is that what I feel is that the counting from past, we are thinking that, okay, so we need a goal, and this is a goal. We need to set this goal, and we have to reach from infinite past. We have to reach this goal. That is what I don't buy. So what I feel is that, so there is no goal or something like that. Suppose if the past is infinite, it is a beginningless, and it starts, and we start traversing through that, and we continue for an infinite point of time, and in between, if we take a sample and we are just stopping somewhere and just looking at it, okay, that where we are reaching somewhere, and for that moment, that is the present. So what I feel is that, this is actually, it is definitely not possible for me to find show like yes show for example the beginningless. It is definitely, if I go back and find the beginningless, it is definitely not possible. And if I go forward in time, it is definitely not possible for me to reach endless. But it is definitely possible from infinite I should, whereas beginningless, if that has an end, I can come to the end after an infinite amount of time. And if something is endless, I can start from the beginning of that endless. I don't think that creates a paradox. In our thinker, I think you should have catch that point, and you could have argued on that point, that part. In our thinker, what do you think?
Well, I would just say that, yeah, you can use sort of the same argument for the future also, right? That a lot of theists believe in heaven. So let's just say heaven is like they're gonna live in there forever. So you can sort of argue that essentially the future is also infinite. But the thing is, if you have infinite time, I mean, infinity is not a point, so you're never reaching infinity. So if you have infinite time,
Yes,
I don't think so you're reaching anywhere. So if you have
yes,
infinite time and
that,
you go backwards, then you're
that is
never
what.
reaching anything.
That is what. So that is my argument. Point of argument is that if something is beginningless and you started from the past, you were traversing through time and you have infinite amount of time. There is no certain goal where you definitely have to reach somewhere. Okay, and so whenever should these so for me it definitely like I would definitely will get back to Dr. Alvaro also. So if how does it sound for him this kind of argument? So or if there are any flaws, we'd like to listen from
I
him
just wanted
also.
to make a point that
Yes, sir. Sure.
then an thinker mentioned theists and religious people who believe that in heaven there is an infinity. But I think that that is not correct. That is not an actual infinity. That would be a potential infinity. I mean, some theists might even argue that heaven is not temporal. I don't know, but even if time exists in heaven, all that means is that time goes on and on and on toward infinity. But it's not the same thing as the past because the past has already occurred, right? So so if the past is has an infinity of prior moments, in my view, as I try to explain to you, I've given you many arguments. That's why I don't believe it's possible. Uh, you will never get to the present moment. To say that, well, is just infinite. You never start. No one walks on the stairs. Obviously, my staircase just an analogy. It's not a matter of someone's walking on the stairs. The point is that when you think about the logical implications of an infinity, I don't think you maybe have thought about this point very seriously. The point is that because you don't have a starting point, it seems that an infinity will prevent you from going from one point to the next, right? Let alone going from infinity to the present. How do you move from one event to the next event? That's the problem. Because as I mentioned earlier, maybe I was not clear. I didn't explain it to you clearly. There is that ancient Zeno's paradox where Zeno says to go from A to B, you have an infinity of sub points prior prior to it. I mean, in between, within this distance. So you can always divide the distance, and you create an infinity of past moments from A to B. And so the problem is that what Zeno wanted to demonstrate with that paradox is that ultimately is to vindicate Parmenides' idea that motion is an illusion, is not possible. Why is it not possible? Because you cannot even move. It's not that you cannot move from A to B, but you cannot even move from A to A uh, 1 to 8, 2 to 8, 3 to 8, 4, etc. Why? Because there's an infinity of subpoints between those subpoints, right? And so I hope it's clear enough. Maybe I'm not very clear, but the problem is, if you look at Zeno's paradox, is that from A to B, from an infinity to the present, there would be an infinity of moments as per your intuition. But if there is an infinity of moments, then everywhere you are on the timeline, you will always have an infinity of moments left over to be counted ahead of you. And so that means you will never get to not only you will never get to the present moment, but you will never be able to move from one moment to the next. So that's one of the logical implications of that.
Well,
And
oh,
you mentioned William Lane Craig. Well, William Lane Craig says about this that I don't use that argument, but I think it's a legitimate argument. William Lane Craig says, then you have no reason, no explanation as to why the present is now instead of a million years ago. Because after all, if you think about it, if you are willing to assume that there's an infinity of prior moments prior to today, and it's possible to enumerate an infinity of prior moments, then you will have enumerated an infinity of moments at any point. So why end in today? Why not last year or 10 years ago or a million years ago? And there's no explanation as to why the present is today rather than before. That's one of the logical implications.
well, I would just say just because the present is today rather than 1 million years ago. I mean you wouldn't say that the my point would be that it could be that there is some reason for which like the present is today rather than 1 million
Mm-hmm.
years ago. It doesn't necessarily imply that it has to be 1 million years ago or yesterday. So it's sort of like
Sure,
we
sure. You're
can't
right. You're right about that.
that
That's true.
maybe we can explain it just by the relationship of events, and this like a relational view of time where like events sort of like the time is sort of dependent on events. So things happen, and those things sort of explain like time, and time is not something outside of like events. So I would just say that since like the present has a unique set of things which at any point of time in the past never occurred, so that's why it's a unique thing which we experience now. I don't know if I can explain it pretty well or not, because I don't know.
Well, I
Sort
mean,
of.
to your defense, I mean, this is a complicated concept. It's very complicated to wrap our heads around time because we don't even know what time is. Not in the sense what time is now. The metaphysic, the ontology of time. So it's very complicated. But look, I think at this point we're going in circles. The point, I would say my final point is this, that from my perspective, when I think logically about an infinity of things, the first point that I wanted to make is that I have excellent reasons to believe that an infinity of items, in this case, an infinity of temporal moments, cannot exist. I don't think that it's possible to have physically, not in mathematics. In mathematics, in transfinite arithmetic, it's a different story where you come up with Cantorian sets and infinities. That's a different story. But in real life, in the physical world, I don't think I have excellent reasons to believe that an infinity cannot exist. Now, I always go back to that idea that in addition to the fact that an infinity cannot exist, I mean, does not exist. Cannot exist is different, because maybe a God could create an infinity, but it would have to do it all at once, right? And create an infinity of temporal moments. Maybe a God could do that. I don't know about that, but it does not exist. Now, when you the second point for me is the mathematics that you just pointed out a few minutes ago. That to me is the ultimate argument, namely, the number of numbers is an infinity, an actual infinity, and no one, not even God, could enumerate an infinity of numbers. Now, if not even God could count 1, 2, 3 and get to the end because there is no end, my intuition, and I'm satisfied with that, but my intuition says we have no right, we have no reason, no inclination, no clue, nothing to support the idea that when it comes to negative numbers, the situation is different. If I cannot enumerate all the numbers from 0 to infinity, then what makes you believe, even in the slightest, that you could go from negative infinity to 0? It is an impossible task. And that's my final thought. I don't think I can spin it any other way. The only way that I would go about is to look at the arguments, all the logical arguments, the Green Reapers, the paradoxes, the hotel, the mathematics, all these arguments that I've been discussing. We don't have time to discuss them all in detail, of course, but
No,
all those
we'll do that.
arguments,
We
all
will
those
discuss
arguments.
all those arguments in future as well, sir. Please, yeah, please continue. Sorry for the interruption, but we will discuss in future as well, sir.
Okay. So,
Sure.
but to me, for my intuition, for my money, all those arguments, well, they affect my intuition, and I can't see, again, when I asked the best proponents of this, think people like Alex Malpass or Linford, and other people, other philosophers like those. When I ask them to give me an argument, they say, you have no right to ask me an argument because I'm not saying that that's true. Well, I'm sorry, but if you don't give me a good reason to believe that it's even possible, just saying that your intuition is that it's different doesn't do it, doesn't cut any ice. You've got to present some good reason to believe, in my view, that it is not the same for the past, that it is possible to traverse an infinity and get to the present.
Okay, sure. Anna
Yeah,
Thinker, could you please stay with us for some time? We will take for a while. We will give floor to Iqbal Bhai also. Is that okay with you, Anna Thinker?
yeah, I can stay if you want.
Yeah, sure, sure. Thank you so much. I don't think we'll continue this argument definitely. And today we have another guest with us. That is Iqbal Bhai. Iqbal Bhai, are you there with us?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay.
And to give a brief introduction about Iqbal Bhai, who is Iqbal Bhai? We don't know, to be honest. So he watches cricket. football
The
also. Okay,
mystery
so he
man.
likes. Yes, mystery man. He likes football also. He reads lot of stuffs. He talks about philosophical arguments, and he talks about science. He talks about history, every single thing. So he has interest in every single thing.
None of these,
And welcome.
none of these is true. Actually, there's only one thing. There's only one thing that I do, which is, you know, I ask questions so I can understand what's being said. That's it. That's just the only thing that I do.
All right.
Do anything. I don't like to read. You know, I just like to ask
Oh,
questions.
really? But you like
So,
watching football, right?
well, yeah. I mean, pertaining to this discussion, yeah, that's the only thing. Asking question. Now,
Thank you.
I wasn't going to touch this, but somehow, Professor. By the way, thank you very much for making the time to be with us.
Sure.
It's been great. I've had a chance to listen to parts of a few of the discussions that you were part of, actually, not the
Sure, Iqbal
entire.
bhai and Dr. Dr. Alvaro, I'm just taking a 2 minutes break. I'm here. I have my headphones on. I have a
Sure.
wireless headphone. I'll be away from keyboard just for 2 minutes. Iqbal bhai, please continue the conversation.
Sure. Sure.
And Dr. Alvaro, Iqbal bhai has some questions, and he just should definitely. Iqbal bhai, could you please go ahead? I will be back on the keyboard in 2 minutes. Okay, Iqbal bhai.
Sure.
Well, before you go, well, thank you very much for adding me here. Actually,
That you don't worry
I
about it. They
appreciate
were
that.
always welcome. My pleasure.
I
Thank you
appreciate
so much, Iqbal bhai, for joining the stream.
Thank you. Well, Professor, again, thank you for being with us. Um, I wasn't, well, I was going to, but not at this moment, to touch on this thing, and somehow it just came up. You said something. You just said, like jokingly, that mystery man, right? Because you can't see me,
Of course.
right? And it must be. I mean, I'm not, sure if you thought about it, but it must be unusual for you to engage in a discussion where you are talking to a few people, and from the perspective of the audience, bunch of people here, they're talking, and there's only one person they can see. This must be pretty unusual for you, right?
Well, not so unusual. I mean, when I teach at the university, sometimes I teach online
Right.
on Zoom, and although I keep repeating to my students that they have to turn on the cameras, there are always students who turn off their cameras. So
I
it's
no,
not an unusual. It's not very. It's not a completely unusual.
okay, no, that's okay. Well, point taken. But um, to have a discussion like the one that you're having right now, you know, is it would have been better. I mean, it's kind of in my mind, it's almost unfair. Um, it would have been better if we could, I mean, if you could see us. I'm not saying it's necessary, but that's how
That's fine.
discussions happen regularly. But
Don't worry
have
about it.
you have you? I mean, this is at the risk of actually kind of a little bit derailing the discussion, but I promise you I'll get back to where we were. But have you thought about it though? Have you asked yourself, like, why do we do that? Why do we have to do this? Why can't we just show up like the way you did?
You're talking about the podcast? I have no idea. I mean, I
Yeah.
didn't organize this. You have to
No, no,
ask
no,
my
not the
kids.
podcast. Like, what? See, your camera's on. People can see you. The audience can see you, but we can't, or we're not. We chose not to.
Well, it's not under my control. So if it was up to me, I would like to see the my interlocutors, if possible. But it doesn't bother me. So
No, I understand that it doesn't bother you. The point I'm trying to make here is that we would love to, but this is actually something that we can't, and it is for our own safety. People, well, you've only spoken to Omid Bhai. Okay, his background's a little bit different, but online, people like myself and many others, we are what you would call apostates. Okay. And apostates from a religion, you know, by the name Islam. And in
Okay.
Islam, apostasy is punishable by death. So just the fact that we have left the religion, that makes us eligible for death penalty. And you
I'm
might,
aware of that.
okay, you are aware of that, and that's fantastic. But what you probably didn't know is that there are many willing followers of that religion, who would make it a priority, who would go above and beyond to make sure this is actually carried out. And I saw one of your discussions with a bunch of theists from Bangladesh. That was a few weeks ago.
Mhm.
Um, you recall that, right? In Insight Zone. Do you remember that discussion?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. Those are the people. They're the ones who'd like to kill us, who'd like to,
Mhm.
make sure that.
Well, you see, earlier on, I don't know if you were if you already joined the discussion.
I apologize.
Earlier
Just started
on,
listening, like
one
maybe like
person
10 minutes ago.
asked, yeah, earlier on, a person asked me
Okay.
whether I believe that any religion could be true or is true, and I would say this is what you are describing just now is another reason why I don't think that theism is true,
No, that's fantastic.
because
I'm actually not talking about theism. I'm just
yeah,
just giving an idea about our realities. That's all. Um,
okay,
that's basically it. That we can't do things like the way you do it because we have limitations. We have risks,
sure,
and you probably didn't know, but one of the discussions that you had was with people who actually believe these things. I mean, it's not just believe, it's not just like Christians and they have these things in their book, in their holy book. These guys actually believe that. If you ever speak to them again, you can ask them, hey, do you think that anybody who lives your religion should be killed? They will give you, in their mind, solid arguments as to why they should be killed. They will tell you that anyone, including yourself, as a matter of fact, why you deserve to die, and you can buy out, from that penalty. Actually, you you can pay, quote unquote, tax or blood money or whatever, so you can
yeah, yeah.
actually all of that stuff, and you probably know all of these things in the
Well,
book.
but let me say this to you. I
Yeah.
see where this is going. A couple of years ago, I had a discussion. I was invited to a Christian podcast.
Okay.
Okay, and I don't think that the situation is different there, because these people
You really
believe
think
that.
this is
Hold
not
on, let me
different there?
finish. Let me
Okay.
finish what I'm saying.
Sure.
Because these people, these Christians, these specific Christians, they firmly believe that I am going to hell and I'm going to be punished by God and I'm going to suffer for eternity for not being a Christian.
Yeah.
So it's really an analogous situation with the
Oh,
Muslims,
I
that you were
disagree.
referring
Um,
to.
I disagree
So
because
now,
they're just basically, saying this is what's written in our book, and according to this book, this will happen to you after you die. These guys, they want to kill you now, not you, but they want to kill us now. I don't think that's the situation you face with those Christians, right? Did they say you deserve to die
sure,
now?
they don't want to kill me now, but
Right, but these guys do.
they want to torture me later.
Right, but these guys do. These guys do. They
I didn't know that. I didn't know
Yeah,
that
this that's if you speak to
the
these guys again,
organizers of
ask them.
that podcast
Yeah,
want to kill me now. I was not
if,
aware of that.
if you speak to them, ask them. You know, they will tell you why it is better for the society that we are killed. Why it is
Well,
better for the
if
society.
what you're saying is true, I don't think I'm going to speak to them.
No, I'm not. This is my point. Actually, I'm not asking you to. You know, I'm not asking you that don't talk to them or whatever. I'm quite the opposite. Actually, I would invite you to actually. I would encourage you to talk to them and ask them. You know, this is this what you believe? Is this what you think is right? But I just wanted to shed light on it, just you know, briefly, and not go into not derail the whole discussion really. But that is a reality. That is the reason. It's I know you jokingly said mystery man, but we don't have an option. We don't have a choice. That's it. That's the point here. Um,
Understandable, understood. I know that. I'm aware of that. Yeah. They what I would say to you is that I get invited to talk, um, and they ask me questions about philosophy, my philosophy, and I'm glad to do it. So that was the discussion there. But
right.
I
Sure.
understand what you're saying.
No,
Totally
no
understand.
judgment on you though. I mean, obviously you came here, right, and you didn't probably know anything about us, and you know,
Dr. Alvaro, it is not on you, to be
right,
honest, and it is not that even if it is up to first thing is that it is not on you, and it is not it is up to you whether you talk to them or definitely join the podcast. It is completely up to you. It is also not that even if you join those podcasts, that is absolutely fine with us. It is not that we are not going to invite you anymore. It is nothing like that. Okay,
Oh,
so
that's fine.
no, that's
so
yeah.
so Iqbal Bhai is just
What he said,
trying to
what he
aware
said,
about the situation. That's all. Okay.
that's it.
So it is
Yeah,
completely up to you, sir. So it is completely your decision. So that is absolutely fine with us. Okay. So he just wanted to make you aware about
aware
that,
of things. Yeah,
aware about the situation. That's all, sir.
we're mystery men by not by choice. Let's put it this way. We'd love to
Understood.
would love to, you
Understood.
know, sit right next to you and, you know, have the same discussion and where everybody can see us and enjoy. But, you know, just that's just not possible. But anyway, let's get back to that discussion and first
Yes.
thing first, I apologize. I know that you guys been talking for I don't know for a good 2 hours, and you know, I just started listening maybe um 10, 15 minutes before I joined. And from what I heard, I understand you guys are talking about the second premise of the what is that called again?
The
Column
Kalam.
argument.
Kalam
And
argument. Yes.
you're basically trying to make sense of it, meaning whether or not this statement or the premise is accurate, right, Professor?
Well, we were discussing specifically whether it is possible to traverse an infinity. And
By extension,
my position is that an infinity cannot be traversed, and because the universe is a collection of moments, then it follows that the universe is not an infinite, but rather it is a finite collection of moments with a beginning.
again, Professor, I so basically you're trying to demonstrate that the second premise holds, right? That's
Right.
Sure,
That the
Iqbal Bhai.
second premise is true.
right. Okay,
Today
second
we
premise. Right.
today we definitely we are talking about the Kalam cosmological argument for sure, but we are not we did not focus on any specific premises. Okay, any specific premise, or we did not focus. So to do well, like opening the argument, I just started talking about the Green Reaper paradox. Okay, and because last week we did not explain it in detail, so what is the actual problem statement of the Green Reaper paradox? So we just started with that, and then people started joining, and I let them ask questions regarding this. Okay, So if you wish, you can if you have any other point regarding the first, second, or third premise, you definitely can discuss about that. Iqbal,
Well, the
to
stuff that
this.
you guys talk about, I mean, this that's just too much for me. I don't understand any of
Okay,
these
sure.
things. I don't even, you know, I don't even intend to actually understand whether or not the
Yeah,
universe,
sure, sure. Please go ahead, Iqbal bhai.
but I, my questions, the question that I have, or actually a bunch of questions, as a matter of fact, is about the argument itself. I don't really care, or don't concern myself with the accuracy of those premises, but I'm trying to understand what those premises are really. So, last time you were here, I had the opportunity to listen part of that discussion, and it seemed to me that you have a very unconventional approach to defining the term universe. No pun intended, but for eternity of time, I thought universe was the collection of all that exists. But you
Yes.
had a different notion, and
I don't think I have a different notion,
you said something
because
about collection of moments.
if reality,
Yeah.
after all, what reality is a collection of moments,
Okay.
right?
So
There's now, there's the time before when you started talking, and when the podcast started, and 1 hour and 51 minutes ago. So the universe is this, a collection of moments. So
right,
the question
you were
is this
expressing it
collection of
in
is
terms
this
of time,
collection of
right?
so the question is this collection of moments finite or infinite?
Again,
My
Professor,
position is it's finite.
I'm not concerning myself actually with that right now, whether or not it's fine. I'm just trying to understand what universe is really, and you are
Well, that's what it
defining
is.
it. You're expressing it um, in terms of this unknown, this term called moment, and
Hmm?
that's where my confusion is really. So, are you? I mean, do you exist?
Yes.
Okay. Do you
I'm
consider
right here.
yourself part of the universe, or is you exist independently outside of the universe?
No, I don't exist independently
Okay. Are you a
outside the universe.
moment?
I'm sorry?
Are you a moment? Are you do you consider yourself a moment? Like you say, a collection of moments, right? I'm just trying to understand the
No, I'm
relationship
not.
between your existence and the universe. Again, bear with me. I've always thought universe.
You are confusing two things.
Okay, yeah, yeah, most
I
likely.
never,
Yeah.
I never defined myself or any other being as
Yeah.
a moment, or as a
I didn't say
moment in
that you
time.
did. I'm asking you. Yeah.
No, the universe itself is a temporal entity. Okay,
That
and
that makes no sense to me when you
we
say
are
that. While I'm trying to understand what it is. When you say a temporal entity, I understand that has something to do with time. But what
correct.
does I mean when you say the existence of universe, what does it really mean? And I'm trying to understand in terms of your existence or existence of any other objects.
Mhm.
So when you were saying when you were defining universe, in the last podcast or last discussion, you were saying things like universe is one of those things that uh, that began to exist. It's one of those things that just simply doesn't make sense to me because I always thought of universe as the collection of everything that exists. So
Okay.
is the universe, I mean, in your view, actually, is this something that exists independent from all of the existence, everything else that exists? Is this something that is, like you have X, you have you have myself, you have the other guys here, you have the chair and the table and whatnot, and then you have universe. Is it something like that? I mean, what is universe? I'm
the
asking very basic questions here,
if you
because
allow
you
me, if you
understand.
allow me
Yeah.
to answer, I will answer your question. The universe is a contingent entity. That's my answer.
And it makes it actually lends no clarity, to be honest. I'm still, yeah, it does not give me a clear picture of what the universe is. You say this is a temporal entity. Okay, that's okay. Sure. And what was the last thing you said? Universe is what? A contingent what?
Yeah, it is a contingent entity. It's
Contingent
not
entity. I
an
don't know what the professor. I don't know what that means again.
well, but
So
you keep talking over me, and so there's no way for me to explain to you what I mean. What I mean is that the universe is not eternal. The universe is a contingent object, and it is an object in the broadest sense of the word object. It's an entity, if you will, that is composed of space, time, and energy. That's what the universe is. Okay.
okay, there you
So the
go. So
question is, let me finish, please.
okay, okay, go
So
ahead.
the question is the universe, whatever, it doesn't matter how you define it. The question is, the universe, whichever way you define it, is it a necessary being or thing, or it is a contingent thing? And my position, and the position of those who argue for the Kalam, is that the universe is a contingent entity. It exists as a result of something else. That seems pretty clear to me.
Professor, thank you again. Um, as of right now, I'm actually not, interested or even concerned with some of the things that you said about the universe, like, what you're trying to find out about the universe. I'm still trying to understand the relationship between an object that exists. It could be, you could be me, could be a chair and a table or whatever, and the universe.
Okay, but
That's
look,
yeah.
Amit, I think that this discussion is
Yes, sir.
very interesting. It's very interesting. It's great, but this is it's shifting to a philosophy class. You should take a philosophy course, maybe at university, because this is not exactly relevant to the Kalam. And I thought that this was a discussion about the Kalam.
Right.
I'll be glad to have a discussion with you about the universe and the relationship between what is within the universe and the whole universe. We can have a discussion on that, but that's going to take us away from the topic of discussion. Now, I saw in the comments, Amit, some very interesting comments. Like, for example, a person made a comment: the Kalam argument is not a sound argument, and that is interesting. I would like, yes, Aklima Katumd. I don't know how to pronounce that. That's a very interesting topic. So I don't want to. I don't think I want to waste a lot of time on other philosophical concepts, because it's almost 2 hours, and I have roughly another 30 minutes, 35 minutes to go. So should we not bring it back to the discussion?
Well,
Yeah.
Professor, with due respect, uh, if you're talking about whether or not this argument is sound, we have to look at whether or not this argument is internally consistent, right? First.
Soundness in
Yeah.
logic means that soundness applies as a property of deductive arguments. A deductive argument is an argument whose conclusion necessarily follows from certain premises. Okay, that is the definition of a deductive valid argument. Now, in addition to that, when an argument is deductively valid, if the premises are true, we call such an argument a sound argument. That's what it means. So I recommend that you take a course in logic, and unless you already know this, but if you don't know, you
Professor,
should.
I apologize again. I mean, I didn't really ask you to, tell me what a sound argument is and what a valid argument is. You
Okay.
literally said what I said. That you said, in addition, remember that? You said, in addition to this, when you remember that, right? In addition, I'm actually not going to that step yet. I'm not
Okay.
concerned with the soundness of the Kalam argument.
Okay.
I'm trying to understand whether or not it's a valid argument. And in
It
order
is
for me,
it is a valid argument.
that's
If
your
you don't see
position. You
that it's
understand,
valid,
Professor? That's your position. I didn't say that it
no,
wasn't valid.
no, it's not my position. That the Kalam argument is a valid argument.
That is your
Valid means
position, isn't it?
I'm
You
sorry.
hold the position that it is a valid argument, right?
That's not my position. It
Is
is
that your
a valid
position?
argument. It's a matter of fact.
No, I'm trying to understand whether it's not valid. That's it. And that's what I wanted to discuss. And in order for me to understand whether or not it's a valid argument, I need to understand what it says, some of the things that it says, what those things are. Kalam argument talks about a universe. I have to know what a universe is in relation to the first premise where it says anything that,
An argument's validity does
yes,
not depend on external factors. An
absolutely.
argument validity depends on the structure of the
Yes.
argument.
Yes.
So all that stuff that I said, that you said about the universe, those factors have no bearing over whether an argument is valid. Maybe that's why I said maybe you should read up a little bit about logic before you ask your question, because that's a different kind of discussion.
Let's have that different kind of discussion. Why can't we have that discussion?
Admit, at this point,
Sure.
I really don't know whether we should go on this. As I said, it's an interesting conversation, but it's a conversation for like an philosophy 101 discussion. This is not relevant to the topic at hand.
Well,
Okay.
you
Sure.
are talking about Kalam, right? I mean, why would you say it's not relevant? I mean, if you're talking about the argument and you
Because we
start
have
with the,
passed the discussion of
right,
whether
and I
the argument is
apologize
valid.
that
We already
you
agree that the argument is valid, and we're trying to discuss the elements of the argument, namely the premises and the concepts of infinity and so forth.
well,
So
that's
if you have a
fantastic that you
question
say
about
that.
a specific argument, that would be great. I'm here for that. Otherwise, I would recommend you take a
I,
course in philosophy.
my position is that this argument is not a valid argument.
Well, then you don't understand what the meaning of the term validity.
Okay,
And that's
well, can
why
I
I
ask you a
said
question then?
you should take a textbook in
Right,
logic, or
right,
go Google Logic 101 and
right.
understand what valid in logic means,
Okay.
because this is not a productive discussion. Everybody agrees that the argument is valid. That's not the question. Is the discussion about the kalam is not whether or not it's valid, because everybody knows it's valid. The
Everybody knows it's
discussion is
valid.
whether
So,
it's
so you
sound.
wouldn't even entertain the idea that someone could present a flaw within the argument itself, and that would deem the argument not valid. You would not even go there. You wouldn't even entertain that idea. That's what you say. That
What I'm
everybody knows that is valid. So this is that. What do you think, Mr. Amit? Do you think this is a valid argument? I'm not talking about the soundness of it. Do you accept that the Kalam argument is a valid argument?
So for me, it is. There are a lot of things I have questions. There are a lot of things. For example, when at the first premise, so people raise that argument regarding the regarding the intuition, that intuitively whatever has beginning and all. So that the purpose of this series is that I have lots of questions regarding this, and I would like to know the both sides. How do they say? And that's why I have found Dr. Carlo Alvaro as a good like a proponent and an expert on that. He also talks about that in many places. He has already had about like discussed about this and explained those things. So that is the purpose of this series actually. So if you ask me that whether I think it is a valid question or not, so to be honest, I don't know because I have lots of questions, Iqbal
So,
bhai.
so Mr. Ahmed, you're saying that you haven't
Yeah.
actually accepted this argument as a valid argument yet, right?
So over here during this discussion, so we are just it is like as Dr. Alvaro has mentioned that he wanted to discuss about the details about the which is related to the Kalam cosmological argument. So definitely I agree. So when if there are related topic, related questions on philosophy maybe okay. So like for example, what is logic and how to like define all this logic, how to arrange the premises and how to derive the conclusion and all those things. So we agreed that we'll not get into that much details that because it will be too much because then there are thousands and thousands of things, billions and millions of things in philosophy, which then we'll not be able to get the clarity about this argument. Okay, so we kind of thought that we will keep it a little bit off topic. We'll not discuss those things as much. So if we find any contradictions or anything, so for example, like we were discussing last time that is it intuitive that so when someone says that intuitively the first premise is very intuitive. So when I asked some of the other people that when we say that okay, so everything that has a beginning has a cause or something like that. Okay, so
I,
how do we know that?
I apologize.
Okay,
I'm afraid let's not get
yeah,
into
sure.
that. Let's not get into the problems and what because I it looks like Professor here. Um, he already accepted that this is a valid argument as well as his position is that everybody accepts this as a valid argument. So what we'd like to do is if it is possible, if you know Professor, if you're interested, that is, that we can talk about, not whether, not the soundness of this argument, but the validity of this argument. We can talk about whether or not this argument is valid. And in order for me to understand, you know,
I think at this point there is a problem of communication because perhaps you don't understand what a valid argument is.
right?
A valid
Perhaps, yeah,
argument in
perhaps, yeah,
logic. Well, let me finish, please. A valid argument in logic is any of the forms that are valid. For example, modus ponens, modus tollens, barbara, etc. There are certain structures in logic that are valid. What does it mean for an argument to be valid? It means that given the premises,
right.
the conclusion necessarily follows from the premises. Or another way to put it is that the conclusion is entailed by the premises, okay, regardless of their truth or falsity. Okay, so if I say if P then Q, P therefore Q, all right,
Yeah,
so that is a modus ponens. That is a valid argument. Why? Because Q is the entailment is entailed by the first premise and the second premise. That's all it means for an argument to be valid. Now, when you look at the Kalam argument, this is not a productive discussion because at this point, no one is looking at the validity of the Kalam. The Kalam is typically formulated like such. Whatever begins to exist as a cause, okay? Premise two, the universe begins to exist. What follows from one and two? it necessarily follows that the universe has a cause of its existence. That is what is called a valid argument. That is not a matter of opinion. That is not an interpretation. That is the very structure of the argument. That's such that the argument is logically valid. Yes, a cat can fly. Okay, she gave an example. So at this point, talking about whether the kalam is valid or invalid, it means that you are behind in the conversation. We're not here to discuss that level of argumentation. We're not here to discuss whether the kalam is valid. We're past that. We have an understanding that the argument is valid, and we're trying to appraise the premises and the arguments in support of those premises. You understand? So maybe you, as I said a number of times, maybe the problem is that you're not familiar with the language of formal logic, and that's not a problem. You can read up about it. It's very easy. There are courses online. You can buy a textbook. That's all it is. Validity doesn't mean that an argument is good, you see, because in logic, we define a good argument as either a sound argument, one that has true premises and the conclusion necessarily follows from the premises, or a cogent argument, which would be an inductive argument that has true premises and the conclusion is very likely to be true given the premises. Those are the two standards of good argumentation, okay? Cogency and soundness. But we're not talking about that. And it's a waste of time talking about that, I think.
Sure. One quick question. So, does it mean that when we say a valid argument, we are actually referring to the structure, the
That's right.
structural correctness of that argument, right?
Simply
So we
about
are
the
not
structure.
okay. So over here, we are not thinking about that whether this is true or not. So as this lady,
Yes,
uh,
because validity does not depend on the truth of the premises. Validity only
mm,
means that the structure of the argument is valid,
mm,
either A or B, right?
mm,
So
mm,
not A, therefore B.
mm,
That's a lot. So it's like saying if I have an apple, I'm holding an apple on my right hand, and I'm holding another apple on my left hand. What follows from this? It follows that I'm
mm,
holding two apples, right? So
mm,
that's not a matter of opinion.
mm,
That's the structure of logic.
mm,
If this, then that.
mm,
This, therefore that. That
mm,
is logical validity. But logical
mm,
validity doesn't mean anything. It only means
mm,
that the conclusion necessarily follows from the premises.
mm,
Now, this is very different from saying that an argument is good. A
mm,
valid argument is not, by definition, is not a good
mm,
argument. In
mm.
order for a
Sure.
valid argument to be good, in addition to validity, it's
Mm,
got to have true premises, right?
mm, mm.
Okay.
So that means, suppose if I add something, so falsely I add something dichotomy. Suppose if I say, if I study hard enough, I will pass the exam. And I say I did not study hard, so therefore I will not pass. So this is not a valid because
That is not a
over
valid
there in the
argument.
yes, so because in the previous one I had a dichotomy, a false dichotomy. So I am implying a
That's
false dichotomy.
affirming the consequent. That's an
Hmm,
invalid argument. Okay. But
okay.
if I said, for example,
Hmm,
every child, Santa Claus brings a gift
hmm,
for every child on Christmas Eve. Okay.
hmm,
My nephew is a child. Therefore, Santa Claus brings a gift to my nephew. You see,
mm,
that conclusion necessarily follows from the premises. So we
mm,
call that argument a valid argument. That's
mm.
all. It's
Got it.
valid because of the structure. Is it a good argument? No. It's an unsound argument. In logic, we call that an unsound argument, which is not a good argument. What
Mm,
makes it unsound is the fact that the premises are false. All right. But the structure is valid.
mm. Got
You
it.
understand that? That's what it means. So,
Mm.
but that's
Should
not
I,
the discussion for
Professor,
today.
Professor, thank you very much for the impromptu crash course on
that's
logical
that's
arguments. I
fine.
appreciate it, but
That's fine. But as I said,
it's
we're
fine. You can
wasting
say,
time talking about
right.
validity here.
I get it. You can say all kinds of things, waste of time, and please go. Is philosophy 101? Go read up and all kinds of things. But I'm still here. I'm still pondering about how
Mm.
we can call this a valid argument. And again, it may not be worth your time, but
No,
it
no,
is
but I
mine.
explained it to you twice already.
No, no,
Whatever begins to
can I
exist as a
again?
cause, the
So you're
universe
gonna
began
interrupt
to
me,
exist.
Professor? You're gonna
Therefore, the
interrupt me,
universe
right?
has a
Right,
cause. That's a valid argument.
Professor. So you're gonna interrupt me now. I was just about to explain what you know part of your the presentation um, that didn't give any more clarity on this the thing that I'm discussing right now, whether or not it's valid.
Okay,
You
go
just
ahead.
told me, yeah, that's fantastic. Everything that you said about validity, soundness, and all of that stuff, I get all of that. And thank you very much again for that crash course. But I'm still at square one. So I'm going to ask you a question. If P then P, is that a valid argument?
That's not an argument.
There you go. It's not an argument, right? So if P then P is not even an argument, correct?
Okay.
There you go. So that's exactly why I wanted to understand the relationship between anything that begins to exist and universe. You see, when you what was that other argument that from the comment? A cat can fly. Tom is a cat, right? You look at this argument. Tom is one of the cats, right? Tom belongs to a class of cats. One of them. That's the relationship between Tom and the class cat. I wanted to. This is what I've been trying to understand from the moment I got in. The relationship between anything that begins to exist, anything or everything, and all things, and universe. What if I said Tom is a cat, therefore Tom is a cat? Would you accept that as a valid argument?
That is not an argument. An argument is
Why is that?
defined
Why
as,
is that? What's the problem? What's the problem with this
I'm
argument?
trying to
Well,
explain it to you,
yeah,
because an argument is defined in logic
right.
as a series of premises in support of a conclusion. So, at a minimum, for an argument, you are required to have a premise in support of a conclusion. Okay.
Thank you. So if
Now
we
you could say that that's in a certain broader sense that that's an argument. If Tom is a cat, therefore, what follows from that? That Tom is a cat. You could say that that's an argument in that sense, but that's a tautology.
okay, so if what happens if we assume the conclusion in the premise, what happens to that argument? What would you say?
That would be begging the question.
What is that? Like, meaning, would that make the argument a valid? If you just a few seconds ago you said in that sense that would be an argument because the conclusion actually follows the premise, right? So, in that sense, would you call that a valid argument? If you are assuming the conclusion in the premise, would you call that a valid argument? You just said that begging the question, that's a fallacy, right? And when you're talking about fallacy, you're talking about some error in this, in logic.
Yes.
Right? Okay, so would you call this a valid argument? Tom is a cat, therefore Tom is a cat.
But in logic, an argument could be valid and yet could be fallacious.
Okay.
See, because there are certain things, there are formal and informal logical fallacies.
Right.
Right. So an argument can be logically valid and yet be fallacious in an informal sense. So I'm not sure exactly where we're going with this, but once again,
So, but
we're still talking about logic, and we're not talking about the reason why I'm here.
okay, well, I apologize for that.
The
but-
logic, look, the Kalam argument, the first premise of the Kalam does not assume the conclusion. Now, another
that is
feature
that
of
is
logic.
precisely my point,
Let me
Professor.
explain something that a lot of people don't understand. A valid argument, all valid arguments, all valid. Now, I'm going to break it to you. Okay,
Sure.
this might sound incredible to you. All valid arguments, deductively valid arguments, are circular.
True.
Why? Because
I agree with you. I agree with you.
because the conclusion is already entailed by the premises.
Absolutely.
Right? If I have one apple here and I have one apple here, it follows that I have two apples.
Right.
Duh. Right. So, but that's the definition of a deductive valid argument. Given the premises, the conclusion is already embedded in the premises.
Correct. Correct. I agree with you there. I agree with you. But it is the issues that I'm having is actually how universe is presented. The idea of universe is presented in that argument.
The universe is not presented any way in that argument.
Yes, it is actually, and
No, it's
and
not. No,
well,
it's
let me
not.
tell you. So
No proponent of
anything,
the
when you say
Kalam presents
anything, when you
the
say anything or all things, those things are they're part of the universe, isn't it? Those things are part of
That's not the
universe,
point of the premise. The point of the premise is that everything that
which is universe,
tends
right?
to exist.
When you say everything, you are already talking about the universe. Can you think of something that belongs to that everything or anything that is not part of universe? In fact, if you go by the second premise, universe has a beginning. Universe has a beginning. You're already saying that nothing in the universe can exist without a beginning. You're already
No,
saying
that is incorrect.
okay,
is
so you are
incorrect.
it's then in that case you are saying universe is independent. Universe exists independently from some other things that can be eternal. That can be eternal.
Look, I have to apologize. I have to say I'm sorry because this discussion that we're having is
Yes.
really not productive at all. This is a it's like going backwards, not going forward.
Yeah.
This is a discussion that is, in my view, based on some misunderstanding of logic and a misunderstanding of the argument itself. The Kalam argument does not assume anything. It is a very
It assumes the conclusion.
It is a very simple structure. Whatever begins to exist
Yes.
has a cause for its beginning. Okay. Now, premise 2 says the universe begins to exist. All right. Therefore, the universe has a cause for its beginning. The Kalam doesn't say that the universe is a thing, that the universe, it does not assume anything. It gives
Professor,
two
this
premises
is
in support of a conclusion. Now, the job of the logician, the job of the person who presents that argument is to show that The premises are true. And if the premises are true, then the conclusion, whether you like it or not, the conclusion is true. That's all it is.
That once again, I mean, this crash courses that you're giving me on validity is fantastic. I appreciate it very much. But the point the takeaway point for me is that you are not willing to even entertain or even to hear actually what I have to say, why I think that this argument, the conclusion of this argument is assumed in the premises. It is the way this, the terms are used. When you say, I mean, if the examples you've given me, or the example um, from the comment box, Tom is a cat. You can say that Tom and cat, they're not the same thing. You can find a cat that is not Tom. When you talk about Kalam, we don't have that relationship in between universe and all things that exist, or everything that exists, or anything that exists. Anything that exists is part of universe. This is why it is so important for me.
We are not talking about what exists. We are talking about things that begin to exist.
Right.
You
It has a
understand?
beginning. It's the
So
same way
it
of saying
doesn't matter
anything
the
that exists
relationship.
that
It
had a
doesn't matter the
beginning. Right?
relationship.
Things that begins to exist is the same thing that exists, which with a beginning is nothing different. Again, can you think of anything that began to exist, but it's not part of this independent, of the universe that exists independently? You'd say that anything that begins to exist,
What does it
anything,
mean independently of the universe? I don't
like
even
for example,
understand what you mean.
you exist independently. You don't. Your existence is
I know I don't exist independently
no,
of the
no, no.
universe.
Please,
I am
this is
part,
why you
I'm
got to let me finish.
within
You
the
you keep
universe.
saying that I'm interrupting you, but you are interrupting me way more than I have interrupted you.
You have to understand, look, that I've been talking for 2.5 hours, and I have to
Again,
go now. I have 3 or 4 minutes left, and this
right.
discussion is not going anywhere.
Well, the previous discussion
So
didn't go anywhere either. I mean, I don't think you've reached a conclusion whether or not the universe had a beginning. If that didn't go anywhere either, and that didn't stop you from having that discussion, right? I mean, that shouldn't be the goal to have the discussion go somewhere. I mean, we can still talk about, and if it goes somewhere, it goes somewhere, and that I don't know why you're fixated on that. That was you just ask yourself that the discussion you had for 2 hours in the last session, that those discussions didn't go anywhere either. You couldn't conclusively prove that universe had a beginning, and I understand that the other side couldn't conclusively prove the universe didn't have a beginning. I could say that didn't go anywhere. As a matter of fact, you also said that it was kind of running in circles too, but that was still a productive discussion. Um,
yes, but I don't think it's a productive discussion to discuss whether the Kalam is a valid argument, because
because you assumed it
no
was valid.
one, no philosopher, no scientist on this earth wonders whether the Kalam is valid, because it is a valid argument. Now, what do you do with that? Now you move past that and you try to assess the premises. We are getting bogged down by whether the argument is valid and the relationship with the universe. That is meaningless.
It's not
I'm
meaningless
sorry, but it's meaningless.
because this is how I'm going to show you. This is why I think the conclusion of the Kalam argument is actually assumed in the premise one. The
Okay,
premise
Iqbal bhai,
one.
and
Hang on, I'm just going to say
yeah, sure, sure,
this one last thing.
sure, sure.
The entirety of the time that I was here, I was trying to understand, trying to get some bits and pieces actually to form an opinion on this argument, but this. I'm just going to go ahead and straight say the conclusion of the Kalam argument that universe has a beginning is actually assumed in the premise that anything that begins to exist, or the
Then you
conclusion
don't
of
understand the argument.
sorry, I apologize. The conclusion of the argument that universe has a cause, universe has a cause, basically saying that the existence of universe as a cause is assumed in the premise. When you say anything or everything or all things that began to exist as a cause, that is essentially universe. You are talking about universe there. Your premise one
No,
is not
that is not
anything.
correct.
Please
See, you
stop
already made a
interrupting,
mistake.
professor.
It's
Professor,
incorrect.
please,
It is
professor,
incorrect.
professor. Say it when I'm done. You've done this to me the whole time.
Look, Amit,
You you know.
I cannot stay here all day.
Okay, thank you.
It's 2.5 hours,
Sure,
and I'm sorry, I'm going to have to go. And
Okay.
sure, sir.
I'm sorry because this is not a productive discussion. This is it's just a wild goose chase. This amounts to nothing.
So was yours.
Uh,
So was yours. I mean,
Sure,
there's
but
Great,
no, no,
you
I'm
are
okay.
entitled
There's a
to your own
second.
opinion,
There's
but you don't
no
understand the
reputable
argument.
scientist who would say this is not a notion that is held consistently among the scientists that the universe had a beginning. But you had no
I
problem.
never said the scientists
I
that
didn't say that
the
you said
universe
that,
has
but
a
I'm saying
beginning.
that
No,
I'm from that I'm
no, you're
going.
not paying attention. I said that no one questions whether the kalam
I
is
didn't.
a
I'm not disputing
deductively
that. I'm not
valid
disputing.
argument.
I'm adding to that you won't find a scientist who actually argues for the position that universe had a beginning. But that didn't stop you from discussing this. That didn't stop you from calling this a productive discussion, even though it's not,
I'm not sure
something
I'm
that
not sure what he's
everybody
saying right now.
accepts. Right? Your
I'm not
point is
sure
that
what
everybody accepts that this is a valid argument. Therefore, we don't need to have a discussion whether or not it's a valid argument. But what I'm saying is there you won't find a single, reputable scientist or anyone who would say that the universe had a beginning. Yet we are here. We're discussing it, and you call that productive. Whether or
that
not
is
it's
not
productive,
true. But
whether or not it's productive,
that
that
is
is
demonstrably false what you're saying, because I can name you numerous scientists
okay.
who argue that the universe began to exist. So that
That
is not
depends
correct.
on what do you mean by beginning. But what is the definition of, beginning
Well,
of an
that was the
existence? What does
purpose of
that mean,
this
right?
podcast. This was the purpose of the podcast before you hijacked the podcast with irrelevant points about validity and not validity and the relationship within the universe and myself.
Well, I
That
was
was
trying
what
to. No, no,
I
I
was
didn't.
trying to do here.
I was trying to understand that is your existence independent from the existence of the universe? Are they two different things? You and the universe, are they two different things, or are you part of the universe? That's what I was trying to understand.
All right. All right. Amit,
Sure, sure.
I'm going to have to go soon. So if we want to wrap it up, maybe I can answer one more question if we want to do that. And then
Oh, okay.
I'm going to have to go because it's already 2 hours and 33 minutes.
Okay, sure. Okay, so before that, what Iqbal Bhai's point was that, so when we say that whatever begins to exist has a cause, and the second premise is the universe has a beginning to exist, universe begins to exist. So now, his point was that whatever begins within that point, whatever, so in that point, we are actually including the whole universe, every single thing within the universe. So that means
No,
when we
no,
say,
no, that is not correct. That is not
okay,
correct at all.
Name one thing that is not
okay.
included. Name one thing.
Okay, sure. Iqbal bhai, what we can do is that we can
That
next week
is
we
not
can
part
again.
of the inclusion. That is not part of the inclusion. The kalam, you are misrepresenting the kalam. That's not the point of the kalam. The
I'm
kalam
just I'm
says
just asking questions. That's all. I'm not misrepresenting. I'm asking questions.
the first premise of the kalam says
Sure.
that there are certain things that come into existence, and there are certain things that are eternal. Right? For example, mathematical truths exist, and most philosophers, most scientists, practically all, virtually all, would say that mathematical truths are necessary truths. So they can exist apart from the universe. That is an example of something that exists necessarily, even without the universe. That's an example. But just the first premise of the Kalam says simply that there are certain things that come into existence and certain things that are eternal. So the question
Hmm.
is for the Kalam, is the universe something that comes into existence, or is it eternal? That's for us to find out. And that's the real discussion, where the discussion lies. You see? So the Kalam does not pre-assumes that the universe is eternal. It's only asking whether the universe is eternal. And there are many different arguments, several arguments in support of the position that the universe began to exist, is not eternal. Uh, what you guys are saying is a misunderstanding of the argument. It's not.
Maybe you
That's right.
misunderstood. I mean, maybe you miss. I don't know why you have to say
It's
these things.
possible. It's possible.
Then
Maybe
I don't know
over
why
the
you have to say
years.
these things. I mean, can we not interact in a way where we're not saying these things? Like you say something, and I go and say, this is so beyond in the uh, you know, the intellect. I mean, beyond beneath the intellect to even discuss this, and beneath productivity, beneath this. Why do we have to say these things? I mean, why can't you
All right.
just, you
Look,
know?
Amit, I didn't come
Sure.
here to be insulted by people.
That's what you did. That's what you did to me.
So I'm going to have to close the podcast. And as I said, I was willing to answer one more question, but I'm not here to teach philosophy, and I'm not here to be insulted by people. So if you want to ask another question, I'll be glad to answer. Otherwise, I'm going to have to go because it's 2 hours and 37 minutes
So, Iqbal bhai,
discussion.
will then we will just
We'll
we
continue.
have another
We'll
guest.
continue here, and we'll talk about this. But Professor,
Yeah, sure.
appreciate
So,
your time, and thank you very much for
so
even.
Dr. Alvaro, we have no intention, really no intention to insult you or something like that. It is not we really did not want that. We want to maintain that courtesy,
Sure.
and we know you are a guest, and if you felt like that, so really, my sincere apologies for that, and we really
Well,
do not have any intention.
Amit
Yes,
bhai,
Iqbal bhai?
it's
Sure.
I mean, I think it's pretty clear actually. It's pretty clear who's the one insulting, and when you tell someone to go read a philosophy 101 book, you can kind of you understand what that person's trying to say. I was not the one. He was the one. Go read a book. Go do this. Go read philosophy 101. This is not productive. Everybody accepts it as valid. You understand this, man. And I was just I didn't say a thing about those things. Do you know what I'm saying? I didn't say a thing. I mean, I don't know why you'd have to say those things. I can have questions, right? And in order to understand whether or not this argument is sound, you have to. If someone questions the validity of the argument, I mean, that that should become the focal point at that point. You started with the assumption that this is a valid argument, and you're discussing whether or not those premises are true. All of a sudden, someone comes in and says, guess what? I don't even accept that. I don't even accept that this argument is valid. Why should we be discussing, whether or not this premise is true at that point? We should really be talking, you should really be, I mean, if, I don't know how to put it. I mean, I don't want to say things that are, you know, mean or anything like that. But if he was true to the intention of this discussion, to the motive of this discussion, if I were him, I would ask, yes, what makes you think this is not valid? This is not a valid argument. But he wouldn't even entertain that idea. He wouldn't even go there. But you tell me the point that I was trying to make. So this is the Kalam cosmological argument is just a scam. It's just a scam because you literally assume the conclusion, which is the universe, the existence of the universe has a cause in the premise. You just say it in a different, in different words, basically. Think about it. I asked him, Tom is a cat. Sorry, yeah, Tom is a cat, therefore Tom is a cat. Is that a valid argument? He said this was not even an argument, right? Amit bhai?
Yes, yes, definitely, he said.
That is precisely my point. A not thinker,
Yes.
chime in, please. I mean,
Yeah.
what do
I
you
I
what do you say?
actually
Yeah.
I actually think that Iqbal, I with all due respect, you should have. I think your point is more related to sort of the soundness of the argument, and I'll explain why. So you were sort of saying that everything that begins to exist, like everything is already presupposing the universe. But I think the argument is basically saying that uh, anything which could logically exist, um, I mean, anything which could logically begin to exist needs a cause. I think you should have like pushed on the soundness because validity is just
No,
P,
no, I'm not.
therefore
I'm not.
Q.
I'm not interested in the soundness. I'm not. Why would I go? Why would I, try to figure out if this premise is true if the argument itself is not valid? Why would I? That's not productive in my book. That's not
No,
productive.
but
Like
Iqbal
think
bhai,
about
but
it. I mean, just a second, a not thinker. That you know that cliche argument when we try to explain validity and soundness. I mean, think about the audacity of this guy, man. Just think about the audacity. I mean, he says, go read, philosophy 101. Even though I've never said, that, okay, this is not valid because it's not true. Did you hear me say that? Thinker.
no, I mean you were challenging the validity, but I
But did I
just to
say that
clarify,
though? Did
right?
I say that it's not valid because I'm challenging the validity because this premise and that premise is not true? Did you hear me say that?
No,
No,
no.
that was not
But
the
I
point,
never said
actually.
that. So that was kind of presumptuous on his part, trying to explain the difference between validity and soundness. Even though my objection to the validity is not based on the fact, or based on whether or not it's true. I didn't say that it's not valid because it's not true. So why would you go there? Why would you try to explain validity, the difference between validity and soundness? Why would you do that?
But
And I
Iqbal bhai,
just
wait.
ate that. I just sat there saying nothing. I just ate that. And this guy, he doesn't like being interrupted, but he interrupted me many, many times while I'm actually trying to
Exactly,
explain.
Iqbal Bhai. I'm sorry to interrupt you. So,
Yeah,
with due respect, Amit Bhai, Iqbal Bhai
Sure.
is a guest, and he is a guest too. If we are trying to show respect to that guy just because he is a
professor or
professor,
something. Yeah.
can we not tell him that our guest is also respectful? Could you not tell him
Yeah,
that
you have a
please
point.
be respectful to Iqbal? You don't know whether he is studied or not. It should
How
not
would
say
you know
something that you
that?
go study. Why?
Yes, yeah.
If I didn't object to this argument on the basis of, you
And
know,
Iqbal Bhai, you were bringing those valid questions. You were asking him with some questions. He didn't answer you. He was keep
he
on
didn't answer
saying
me. It's just everybody accepts it. I mean, what
he
kind
was
of
keep on saying that it is not valid because of this. But you were asking multiple questions. He didn't answer any of those. He became so uncomfortable and he
I
wanted to
was
leave.
exactly. I mean,
That was
until the
so funny.
very end, Masabai, until the very end, I never even said that this wasn't a valid argument. I was asking questions. I was asking. Think about it. This is a scam, and I'll explain this to you. With that cliche argument that we have, Tom is a cat. Tom is or cat does this. Tom is a cat. You can make this distinction between Tom and the class cat. No one thinks that Tom is all there is to the term cat. Do you understand what I'm trying to say, enough thinker?
So the first premise is everything that begins to exist has
No,
a
let's not
cause.
go there. Let's not go
What?
there. Let's not go there.
No, no,
I'm
no,
trying
no,
to make a
no.
point here.
It's relevant. It's
I'm trying to
relevant.
make a point here, and I think I'm trying to make a point. And once we make that point,
Iqbal
we'll
bhai,
go to the argument.
can we switch this conversation in Bengali, please?
Okay.
Bengali তে এটা continue
Sure,
করতে
sure,
পারি?
sure, sure. No problem.
Sure, please.
আমরা যখন আচ্ছা, what about enough thinker is
না না
Bengal,
না
right?
সমস্যা নাই বাংলা বলতে
Okay,
পারো।
okay. Think about this way. Think about it this way. আমরা যখন বলতেছি যে বিড়ালের
Mhm,
চারটা পা আছে
mhm.
এবং টম হচ্ছে একটা বিড়াল, এখানে কারোরই কোনো বুঝতে অসুবিধা হচ্ছে না যে টম পুরা বিড়াল ক্লাসটাকে রিপ্রেজেন্ট করে না, মানে টম
হুম,
এটা তো সার্টেন নাকি?
অবশ্যই।
হ্যাঁ টম অনেকগুলি ক্যাটের ভিতরে একজন cat।
একটা ক্যাট, এক্স্যাক্টলি। এখন যদি এইটা করতো যে টম মানেই হচ্ছে বিড়াল, দেন এই আর্গুমেন্টটা নিয়ে আপনি কি বলবেন তখন? তখন
টম মানে এটা তো বেগিং দ্য কোয়েশ্চেন
fallacy, right? এখন আপনি দেখেন বিড়ালের চারটা পা আছে, টম একটা বিড়াল, সুতরাং টমের চারটা পা আছে। এই যে এখানে টম মানে যদি বিড়াল হয়, তাহলে তো আমি প্রথম প্রেমিসে যে বিড়ালের চারটা পা আছে মানেই তো টমের চারটা পা আছে নাকি?
হ্যাঁ তাহলে
এইখানে কেউ কোনো প্রবলেম দেখে না, কারণ আমরা সবাই কিন্তু টম এবং বিড়াল এই দুইটার মধ্যে যে টমের এক্সিস্টেন্স এবং বিড়ালের যে এক্সিস্টেন্স, সেটা বা টম এবং বিড়ালের যে নোশনটা, এই দুইটার মধ্যে যে রিলেশনশিপটা, সেটা আমরা বুঝতে পারছি। রিলেশনশিপটা কি? টম হচ্ছে একটা বিড়াল, রাইট? এই নট থিঙ্কার ভাই?
জি টম একটা বিড়াল হবে।
এক্স্যাক্টলি, এটাই হচ্ছে পয়েন্ট। এন্ড দেখেন কার্লো কিন্তু শেষে
Iqbal bhai, that's where he became so clueless and he wanted to escape.
he wanted to
That
escape.
was so funny.
He was saying দেখেন ওরা যখন এনিথিং বা এভরিথিং এইটাকে যখন কিনা এইটা বলার পরে যখন ইউনিভার্স বলে, এখানে ওই বিড়াল এবং টমের যে রিলেশনশিপটা, যে টম হচ্ছে ওয়ান অফ মেনি ক্যাটস, বিড়ালস, রাইট? ইউনিভার্সকে সেইখানে এইভাবে প্রেজেন্ট করতেছে যে
ইকবাল ভাই কিন্তু এখানে সমস্যা আছে, রাইট? কারণ এভরিথিং যখন বলা হচ্ছে তখন কিন্তু আমরা অলরেডি মানে আমি আগে ক্লিয়ার করি না, আমি কিন্তু আপনার সাথে এগ্রি করি না এই পয়েন্টে যে এখানে কি বলে এটা ভ্যালিড আর্গুমেন্ট না। কেননা দেখেন এভরিথিং যখন বলা হচ্ছে
একটু নয়েজ হচ্ছে, একটু বলেন।
আচ্ছা, একটা কথা জিজ্ঞেস করি, মেসিয়া ভাই আছেন? মেসিয়া ভাই মিউট আছেন আপনি?
হ্যাঁ অমিত ভাই, আমি আসি, বাট আমি থাকতে পারবো না, আমি হয়তো বের হয়ে যাবো।
আচ্ছা, একটা কথা জিজ্ঞেস করি, আমরা কি এই সত্যের সন্ধানী ওখানে একটা লাইভ শুরু করতে পারি, এই লাইভটা ক্লোজ করে?
শিওর
আপনি তো admin ওখানে।
লাইভ চলতেছে।
আসলে আমি এই না থেকে আমি পরে আসি, দেখেন আমি পরে আসি। দেখেন আমি দুইটা পয়েন্ট, একটা হচ্ছে কি যে আমার এই আর্গুমেন্টটাকে ইনার থিঙ্কার ভাইয়ের সাথে আমি জাস্ট উনি বলছেন যে কোনো কিছুতে একটা এগ্রি করেন না, কোন জিনিসটাতে এগ্রি করেন না একটু বলেন আমাকে।
না আমি তো এগ্রি করছি না, যখন ওরা এভরিথিং বলা হচ্ছে আমাদের আর্গুমেন্ট, রাইট? তখন এভরিথিং বলতে আপনার মেইন পয়েন্ট
anything, it doesn't matter, everything, anything, all things, it doesn't matter।
না শুনেন দেখেন এভরিথিং যখন বলা হচ্ছে তখন আমরা ইউনিভার্সকে বাদ দিয়েও কথা বলতে পারি। কেন বলতে পারি? কেন আমরা শুধু বলতেছি লজিক্যালি যদি কোনো জিনিস বিজ্ঞান করে তাহলে কি তার কোনো কজ দরকার নাকি, একটু কি বলতেছি। এখন আপনি যদি বলেন যে ইউনিভার্স হচ্ছে নেসেসারিলি মানে আপনার সবসময় থেকে ছিল, তাহলে ওটা সাউন্ডনেসকে অ্যাটাক করে।
আবার বলতেছি, আমি বলতেছি সবসময় থেকে ছিল, আমি বলতেছি না তো। আপনি যে ওই এনিথিং এভরিথিং এখানে যেটার কথাই বলেন না কেন, সেটা তো ইউনিভার্সের পার্ট তো নাকি?
না সেটা তো আপনার প্রিসাপোজিশন ভাই।
আমার প্রিসাপোজিশন কি? তাহলে একটা জিনিস দেখান যেটা ইউনিভার্স, যেটা কিনা এক্সিস্ট করে, বা যে একটা কনসেপ্ট দেন আমাকে যেটা এক্সিস্ট করতে পারে ইউনিভার্সের এক্সিস্টেন্স থেকে ইন্ডিপেন্ডেন্টলি। আমাদের সেই জন্যই তো আমি জিজ্ঞেস করেছিলাম যে ইউনিভার্স জিনিসটা কি। ইউনিভার্স যদি যা কিছু এক্সিস্ট করে সেটার যদি হয়, সেট হয়, সেটার সেটটা যদি হয়, এইভাবে যদি আমরা ডিফাইন করি, এই জন্য তো আমি জিজ্ঞেস করতেছিলাম। তাহলে আপনি বলেন ইউনিভার্স জিনিসটা কি?
হ্যাঁ,
দেখেন
সেটাই
এই
তো পয়েন্ট।
আর্গুমেন্টের
যদি না যান,
শুধু
আপনি দেখেন, আপনি আমাকে এই কথাটা, এই প্রশ্নটা ওই টম ক্যাট এইখানেও টম এবং ক্যাটের যে ইয়েটা ক্লিশে যে আর্গুমেন্ট সেখানেও বলতে পারতেন যে যে টম এবং বিড়ালের ডেফিনেশন কি। এখানে আমরা জিজ্ঞেস করি না, বিকজ যদিও কার্লো এবং আমিও বলি যে এক্সটার্নাল যে ইনফরমেশন গুলা, এক্সটার্নাল যে ইনফরমেশন গুলা এটা ভ্যালিডিটির সাথে সম্পর্কিত না, এটা আমরা বলি, কিন্তু তারপরেও আমাদের ওই আর্গুমেন্টের আন্ডারস্ট্যান্ডিংটা কিন্তু এক্সটার্নাল ইনফরমেশনের উপরেই ডিপেন্ডেন্ট। এখানে টম যে সব বিড়ালকে রিপ্রেজেন্ট করে না, এটা আমরা কিভাবে বুঝলাম?
হ্যাঁ, এখানে তো আপনি যদি কি বলে প্রেমিসে আগেই দিয়ে থাকেন যে টম বিড়ালদের অংশ, তাহলে তো টম সবাইকে রিপ্রেজেন্ট করবে না।
সেটা কোথায় দিছি আমি, বলেন তো?
আপনি কোনটার কথা বলতেছেন? আপনি
টম এবং ক্যাটের কথাটা, যেটা এখানে যে টম মানে যে বিড়াল না, এটা আমরা কেন ধরে নিচ্ছি? এটা কোথায়
আপনি
বলা
আগে
আছে?
আপনি প্রেমিসে আমাকে দেন, তারপর আমি বলছি, কারণ আমি বুঝতেছি না কোন আর্গুমেন্টের কথা বলতেছেন।
বিড়ালের 4টা পা আছে, টম হচ্ছে একটা বিড়াল, ঠিক আছে?
হ্যাঁ, তো বিড়ালের 4টা পা আছে, তো এখানে আমরা কি জানলাম যে বিড়ালের 4টা পা থাকে, আর এরপর সেকেন্ড প্রেমিসে বলা হচ্ছে যে টমও একটা
আমি
বিড়াল।
কথা বলতেছি না, বিড়ালের কি আছে সেটা, বিড়ালের প্রপার্টি নিয়ে আমি কথা বলতেছি না। আমি বলছি যে টম দিয়ে যে পুরো বিড়ালকে, সব বিড়ালকে আমরা রিপ্রেজেন্ট করতেছি না, এটা আমরা কেন ধরে নিচ্ছি?
হ্যাঁ, কারণ টম তো একটা গ্রুপ না, অনেকগুলি ক্যাটের ভিতরে একটা ক্যাট।
বিড়াল একটা গ্রুপ, রাইট?
সরি, মানে আমি বলতে চাচ্ছি যে অনেকগুলি, মানে টম বিড়াল
এটা কেন
গ্রুপের
ধরে
মধ্যে
নিচ্ছি
একজন।
আমরা? এটা কেন ধরে নিচ্ছি আমরা? কেন ধরে নিচ্ছি? এখানে আমরা কোশ্চেন করতেছি না কেন?
কারণ আপনি বললেন টম একটা বিড়াল, এই যে একটা শব্দ ব্যবহার করলেন, এটাই তো।
রাইট, একটা শব্দ ব্যবহার করে আমরা বলতেছি যে টম, কিন্তু এখানে যদি আবারও এখানে চলেছি, টম একটা বিড়াল, টম একটা বিড়াল, ঠিক আছে? এখানে তো নেসেসারি কেউ বলতেছে না যে টমের বাইরে আর কোনো বিড়াল আছে, বলতেছে কি? আমরা কেন এখানে সুইম করতেছি? এখানে আমরা যেভাবে প্রেজেন্ট করতেছি জিনিসটা সেভাবে, ঠিক কিনা?
হ্যাঁ, তো ক্যাট আপনি গ্রুপ হিসেবে বুঝাচ্ছেন, আর
গ্রুপ হিসেবে
টমকে গ্রুপের
যে
ভিতরে
গ্রুপ, সেই
একজন।
গ্রুপটা যে টম না, এটা কিভাবে বুঝলাম আমরা? আমার তো প্রশ্ন সেখানে।
ভাই, আপনি বললেন
সেটা তো
টম সেই গ্রুপের ভিতরে একটা একটা বিড়াল, রাইট? একটা, এই যে
সেটা ভাই,
একটি
সেই
শব্দ।
গ্রুপের মধ্যে একটা বিড়াল কিভাবে বুঝলাম আমি সেটা?
না, ইকবাল ভাই, আপনি যেটা
সে-
বলছেন সেটা তো আমি আগে থেকে জানি বলে, মানে আমার কাছে
আগে
আমি
থেকে
ধরে
জানি বলে,
নিচ্ছি যে
এক্স্যাক্টলি মাদারফাকার,
মানে
এক্স্যাক্টলি
আ-
আগে থেকে জানি বলে।
আমার, হ্যাঁ, আমার কাছে একটা ওটা জানি আমি, এই ধরুন টম অ্যান্ড জেরি দেখেছি, হ্যাঁ, দিয়ে এমন ভাবে আমি ব্যাপারটা নিচ্ছি, আই এম টেকিং ইট ফর গ্রান্টেড, আমি আর ওটাকে কোয়েশ্চেন করছি না।
কোশ্চেন
বাট
করছেন,
এবার
এক্স্যাক্টলি। এখন এইখানেই এই কারচুপিটা, স্ক্যামটা এখানেই, যে ইউনিভার্স যেটা, এখানে আমার হয় জানতে হবে যে ইউনিভার্স কি, যে এটা ডেফিনেশনটা কি। আর যদি না ডিফাইন করে, তাহলে পরে ইউনিভার্স যদি আরেকটা টার্ম হয় যেটা দিয়ে ডিনোট করা হচ্ছে সমস্ত কিছু যা এক্সিস্ট করে, ইন দ্যাট কেস ইয়েস, আপনি যদি এইভাবে বলেন যে এক্স এর প্রপার্টি হচ্ছে যে এক্স হ্যাজ এ কজ, ঠিক আছে? ওয়াই যদি এক ধরনের এক্স হয়, ওয়াই যদি এক ধরনের এক্স হয়, তাহলে ওয়াই এর একটা কজ আছে, নো প্রবলেম উইথ দ্যাট। কিন্তু ওয়াই যদি এক্স হয়, তাহলে তো আমি ওয়াইটাকে প্রথমেই এক্স হিসেবে প্রেজেন্ট করলাম প্রেমিস ওয়ানে, ঠিক কিনা? এখানে আমি এক্স ওয়াই ব্যবহার করতেছি যাতে করে আমাদের প্রিকনসিভ যে ধারণাগুলো আছে,
নোশনটা, হ্যাঁ,
কোশ্চেনগুলো যাতে
প্রিকনসিভ নোশন যেন
ইম্প্যাক্ট না করে।
ইকবাল ভাই,
এখন তো আপনার কোনো অসুবিধা নাই বলতে যে এই এই আর্গুমেন্টটা কোনো আর্গুমেন্টই না, ঠিক কিনা? অমিত ভাই, এখন তো কোনো প্রবলেম
মানে,
নাই যদি আমরা
হ্যাঁ,
বলি যে
এক্স্যাক্টলি,
ভাই
হ্যাঁ,
হ্যাঁ,
দেখেন
Iqbal,
এখানে
নিচের
I
ওই
thought Iqbal bhai was trying to set him up by
I was trying to set him
clarifying
up, exactly. I was trying to set
exactly.
him up.
So you were trying to set him up, and then আপনি যে প্রেমিসটা ওনাকে দিছেন, আপনি ব্রেক ডাউন করার চেষ্টা করতেছেন, বাট হি বিকেম সো ক্লুলেস। হ্যাঁ, বরঞ্চ যে আমরা তো জানি যে ল অফ আইডেন্টিটি বলতে একটা কথা আছে। তো আপনি যে বিড়াল বলতে যে টমকে বুঝাইছেন, এই জিনিসটা উনি হয়তো বা ধরতে পারেনি। তো এই কারণেই সেই জিনিসটা বুঝতে না পেরে সেইটাকে বলতেছে ইনভ্যালিড আর্গুমেন্ট। তো এইখানেই সে আনকমফোর্টেবল হয়ে গেছে, এই জন্য সে তাড়াতাড়ি ভাগার চেষ্টা করছে, দ্যাটস ইট।
এনিওয়ে, বাট আরেকটা, তার তো অবশ্যই একটা প্রবলেম আছে যে দেখেন, ডিসকাশন এখানে করতেছি, আমি কিন্তু মুখ বুঝে ভাই এই যে যে কথাগুলো বললো যে এটা খুবই একদম বিগিনিং লেভেল, এই লেভেল, আমরা ওখান থেকে চলে আসছি, এটা একটা ফিলসফি 101 বই পড় গিয়া তারপর হুদাই হুদাই ভ্যালিডিটি এবং সাউন্ডনেস এটা নিয়ে একটা ক্র্যাশ কোর্স আমাকে দিল। যদিও আমি যে কথাগুলো বলছি সেটা আমি অলরেডি তাকে বলে নিছি যে আমি ওইটা নিয়ে কনসার্ন না। এই প্রেমিস গুলো যেগুলো আছে এগুলোর অ্যাকিউরেসি নিয়ে আই এম নট কনসার্নিং মাইসেলফ উইথ দোজ থিংস, আমি বলে নিছি। এরপরে হুদাই না বুঝে না বুঝে এ বলতেছে অ্যাজ ইফ মানে আমি এই আর্গুমেন্টের ভ্যালিডিটি নিয়ে কোশ্চেন করতেছি এই কারণে যে আমি মনে করি সেগুলো ট্রু না। আরে বাট আমি তো ট্রু না বলছি। আর তাছাড়া এইটার কোনো না প্রোডাক্টিভ না, তোর ডিসকাশনও তো প্রোডাক্টিভ না। তুই কি আসতে পারছিস কনক্লুশনে যে এইটা কিনা এই জিনিসটা
আচ্ছা ইকবাল ভাই,
আছে কিনা? সরি
একটুখানি
আমাদের
ইন্টারাপ্ট করছি। হ্যাঁ, আমি একটু ইন্টারাপ্ট করছি। হ্যাঁ, আমাকে একটুখানি বেরোতে হবে। ঠিক আছে?
আচ্ছা
মাসিয়া ভাই, আপনি কি একটা লাইভ করতে পারেন? সংশয়ের লাইভে একটা লাইভ ওপেন করতে পারেন?
আচ্ছা
করে একটা
অনুপ
শেয়ার।
ভাই, আমি তাহলে বেরোয় যাচ্ছি, পরে আমরা এটা নিয়ে কথা বলবো না, বাট আমি লাস্ট কথাটা একটু আপনাদের কাছ থেকে
শিওর,
বলি যে এই যে
শিওর।
ইনসাল্টিং এবং আপনার কন্ডেসেন্ডিং ভাবে যে কথাগুলো বলা, এটা এই জিনিসগুলো যে সে করছে আমি তাকে একবারও বলি নাই। আমি বলছি যে এই জিনিসগুলো তো আপনার উপর খাটতে পারে, শেষে বলছি যে জিনিসগুলো সে আমাকে বারে বারে বলছে, আমি তাকে কখনো বলি নাই। হ্যাঁ, যে সে বলছে যে ইউ মিসআন্ডারস্ট্যান্ড, আমি তাকে পরে বলছি এটা তো আপনার ক্ষেত্রেও কাটতে পারে। বাট
হুম।
প্রথম থেকে যে আমার ইয়ে ফিলসফি 101 ক্লাস করা উচিত, এটা শিখে আসো ওটা শিখে আসো, এই জিনিসগুলা এই কন্ডারস্ট্যান্ডিং ভাবে কে বলছে আমাকে একটু বলেন।
না, শিওরলি উনি এটা শুরু করেছিলেন, সত্যি করে উনি এই কথাটা
এবং
বলছিলেন।
যদি
এবং
উনি
আমি
এরকম বলে
সব
এখনো
থাকে তাহলে
কিন্তু
হি শুড এক্সপেক্ট দ্য সেম। তাহলে
আমি
ইকবাল
তো
ভাই যদি এরকম
তারপরে
কিছু
আমি তাকে
তাকে
বলি
বলতো
নাই, তারপরে আমি তাকে
তাহলে
এগুলো বলি নাই।
হ্যাঁ,
আমি
আপনি
তাকে
তা
বলছি
বলেন নাই, বাট
জিনিসগুলো
যদি এটা যদি ফর দ্য সেক অফ আর্গুমেন্ট যদি এটা যদি পার্সোনাল অ্যাটাক হয়েও থাকে তাহলে হি শুড এক্সপেক্ট দ্য সেম। তাহলে কেন
you should expect
জাস্ট
the same, and even then I didn't do
জাস্ট
that
বিকজ
actually, আমি তাকে
জাস্ট বিকজ ইউ আর প্রফেসর দ্যাট ডাজন্ট মিন ইউ নো এভরিথিং অফ দ্য ওয়ার্ল্ড অ্যান্ড ইউ শুড নট বি ক্রিটিসাইজ।
রাইট। এবং আমি
ইকবাল
তাকে
ভাই
শুধু এতটুকুই বলছি যে তার ক্ষেত্রে এগুলো খাটতে পারে। ফর এক্সাম্পল প্রোডাক্টিভ না, এটা তো তোর ক্ষেত্রেও খাটতে পারে। তুই যেটার ভিত্তিতে বলতেছিস প্রোডাক্টিভ না, এটা তো তোর ক্ষেত্রেও খাটতে পারে। তুই তো কোনো কনক্লুশন আসতে পারস নাই, তাহলে প্রোডাক্টিভ কেমনে হলো তুই? বাট এইটা তো আমাদের গোল হওয়া উচিত না, যেটা প্রোডাক্টিভ না। এটা একটা কোশ্চেন আমাদের আছে, এই প্রশ্ন নিয়ে আমরা কথা বলতে পারি। বাট তুই যদি
ডিফেন্ড করতো
হ্যাঁ
ও
genuinely তুই ট্রু
ওই চুনা
থাকিস তোর
আগাতেলে
সেই
এটা
প্রতি।
ডিফেন্ড করে যাইতো যে ইকবাল যে কোশ্চেনটা করছে ওয়াই দিস ইজ ইনভ্যালিড কোশ্চেন, সে বলতেছে না আমি এটা নিয়ে কথা বলবোই না। আরে কি আশ্চর্য!
হ্যাঁ। আরে ভাই
ঠিক
তুই
আছে,
আসছিস সাউন্ডনেস নিয়ে কথা বলতে, সাউন্ডনেসের তো একটা অংশ হচ্ছে গিয়ে সেই আর্গুমেন্টটা ভ্যালিড হইতে হবে নাকি অমিত ভাই, নাকি এই নট
হ্যাঁ,
থিঙ্কের ভাই?
অবশ্যই, অবশ্যই,
তো আমার
অবশ্যই।
সেখানে যদি গ্যাঞ্জাম থাকে, আমি কেন ভাই ওটা নিয়ে কথা বলবো না? কেন তোর লাগে দৈরা নিয়ে কথা বলবো? যে আমরা কি এই যে টম এবং ক্যাটের যে ইয়েটা, এই বা ধরেন অ্যাবসার্ড কিছু যে আপনার আর্গুমেন্ট দেয় যেটা বোঝানোর জন্য, একটা কনসেপ্ট বোঝানোর জন্য, যে সমস্ত আহ, সব স্টুডেন্ট হচ্ছে কি আপনার 5 ফিট লম্বা, জন হচ্ছে একটা স্টুডেন্ট, জন 5 ফিট লম্বা, এইটা কি ভাই আমরা এটার ভ্যালিডিটি নিয়ে যে আমরা কথা বলবো, ভ্যালিডিটি নিয়ে কথা বলবো, তখন কি আমরা ওই এই সমস্ত সব স্টুডেন্ট 5 ফিট লম্বা কিনা এইটা যাচাই করে কথা বলবো, নাকি ভাই ভ্যালিডিটি কথা বলবো ভাই ওই
ইকবাল ভাই
হ্যাঁ
এইখানে একটা পয়েন্ট ধরি আমি আপনার, যে আপনি বললেন যে এই যে ধরেন সব স্টুডেন্টরা 6 ফিট লম্বা, রাকিব হচ্ছে একটা স্টুডেন্ট, তাহলে
হ্যাঁ
রাকিবও 6 ফিট লম্বা, রাইট? এখানে আপনি যদি এখানে স্টুডেন্টের ডেফিনিশন নিয়ে এখানে আপনি আর্গিউ করতে চান, তাহলে ওটা সাউন্ডনেস এর দিকে চলে যাচ্ছে, ওটা
না
ভ্যালিডিটি থেকে
যায়
যাচ্ছে
না
না।
ভাই, যায় না। আমি বলি কেন আপনাকে, এখানে এটা আমি এই যে ডিস্টিংশনটা যে আছে, দুইটা এন্টিটি, তাইলে পরে তো ভাই ওই যে ইফ পি দেন পি এটাই তো হয়ে গেল। এটা যে হচ্ছে না, এইটা এটা করার জন্য, এনশোর করার জন্য আমার ধরেন ইফ পি দেন কিউ, পরবর্তী গিয়ে যদি দেখি যে কিউ আর পি একই জিনিস, তাহলে পরে তো এটা হয়ে গেল ইফ পি দেন পি, তার কথা অনুযায়ী এটা একটা আর্গুমেন্টই না। এই জিনিসটা যাতে না হয়, বিড়াল টম, স্টুডেন্ট আর জন, এগুলোর ক্ষেত্রে আমাদের করতে হচ্ছে না, কারণ আমরা অলরেডি অ্যাসুম করে নিছি যে ওই টম মানে পুরো বিড়াল ক্লাসটা না, জন মানে পুরো স্টুডেন্ট ক্লাসটা না। বুঝতে পারছেন কি বলছি এন থিঙ্কের ভাই?
হুম।
না
যেহেতু
না এখানে আপনি
এই জিনিস হ্যাঁ
আচ্ছা, ইফ পি দেন নট কিউ, পি দেয়ারফর কিউ, ঠিক আছে? তো এখানে আমাদের ডেফিনেশন, আপনি যখন মানে আপনার সাধারণত যেভাবে ফিলোসফাররা আর্গিউ করে তখন তারা
এখানে
ডেফিনেশন,
পি আর কিউ যে ডিস্টিংক্ট, এইটা কি আপনি এইটা কি অ্যাসিউমড কিনা?
হ্যাঁ, এটা তো
আচ্ছা আমি কি
অ্যাজিউম, আমি সেটাই বলতে
দাঁড়া,
চাইছি যে ওইখানে আমাদের
তাহলে
কতগুলো প্রিকনসিভ নোশন থাকছে, সেইখানে সেগুলো দিকে আমরা ওটা অ্যাজিউম করে নিচ্ছি।
রাইট
কিন্তু
অমিত ভাই, ইফ পি দেন কিউ, এখানে পি কিউ যে ডিস্টিংক্ট, এইটা আমরা অ্যাসিউম করে নিচ্ছি না?
হ্যাঁ, ওটা মানে এখানে অধিকাংশ ক্ষেত্রে আমরা অ্যাজিউম করে নিচ্ছি।
হ্যাঁ,
মানে যেমন ধরুন এই যখনই আমরা টমের কথা বলছি, এটা খুব সাধারণ উদাহরণ। এবং ওই টম অ্যান্ড জেরি এই সমস্ত দেখে টম যে একটা ক্যাট, বা সেই জিনিসগুলো আমরা অনেক সময় অ্যাজিউম করে নিই। এগুলো একটা
আমি টম যে
ইয়েতে
ক্যাট সেটা না, টম ক্যাট সেখানে বলা হচ্ছে, টম যে একটা ক্যাট সেখানে বলা হচ্ছে, বাট টম যে মানে টম মানেই যে বিড়াল, মানে
হ্যাঁ,
এবং বিড়াল মানেই যে টম, এই এই
হ্যাঁ,
যে এই যে যে তারা যে ডিস্টিংক্ট, এটা মানেটা কি? এ এবং বি যখন ডিস্টিংক্ট হয়, বা আচ্ছা ডিস্টিংক্ট না, যে এই এ এবং বি যখন আইডেন্টিক্যাল হয়, যার মানে হচ্ছে এ
হ্যাঁ,
ইকুয়ালস বি এবং এন্ড বি ইকুয়ালস এ,
হ্যাঁ,
রাইট?
হ্যাঁ,
এই দুইটা প্রপার্টি যে হোল্ড করতেছে না এ এবং বি এর মধ্যে, এইটা আমরা অ্যাসিউম করে নেই বেশিরভাগ আর্গুমেন্টের ক্ষেত্রেই। আমার যদি
নিশ্চয়ই।
ডাউট থাকে যে এই কালাম আর্গুমেন্টে এই কেসটা হইতে পারে যেখানে কিনা আপনার ইউনিভার্স এবং এনিথিং দ্যাট এক্সিস্ট এই দুইটা একই হইতে পারে, আইডেন্টিক্যাল হইতে পারে, সেই ক্ষেত্রে তো আমার এটা তো বাজায় দেখতে হবে নাকি?
নিশ্চয়ই,
তো
এক্স্যাক্টলি।
এই ক্ষেত্রে আমি তো
আচ্ছা,
পাঁচটা দিতে পারতেছি না যে ভাই ইউনিভার্স এবং ওই এনিথিং বা এভরিথিং এই দুইটা আলাদা জিনিস, এই দুইটা ডিস্টিংক্ট জিনিস। ঠিক যেরকম টম এবং বিড়াল, বিড়ালের যে নোশনটা এবং টম, এইটা যে
হ্যাঁ,
ডিস্টিংক্ট, এটা তো আমাদের বলে নিতে হচ্ছে না। স্টুডেন্ট এবং জন, তারা যে ডিস্টিংক্ট, এই জিনিসটা আমাদেরকে বলে নিতে হচ্ছে না। কিন্তু ইউনিভার্সের ক্ষেত্রে যদি আমরা এটা দিয়ে দেই, স্ক্যামটা তো এখানেই রে ভাই,
হ্যাঁ,
স্ক্যামটা তো
ওই
এখানেই।
জিনিসটা
আমার পয়েন্টে তো
এক্স্যাক্টলি।
এখানে।
আমিও
তুমি
সেই
এখানেই তো
পয়েন্টটারই আসতে
আর্গুমেন্টটা
চাইছিলাম
সার্কুলার
যে
করতেছে
না ইকবাল ভাই, ইকবাল
ইকবাল
ভাই,
ভাই,
না-
এইখানেই তো
আচ্ছা, আমি
এখানে তো আর্গুমেন্টটা
আমি একটু
সার্কুলার
সবাইকে
হইতেছে।
থামাচ্ছি। হ্যাঁ, আমি একটু থামাচ্ছি। আমি
আচ্ছা আমি তাহলে
এক্সট্রিমলি
বের
সরি।
হয়ে যাই
আই হ্যাভ এ
অমিত
হার্ড
ভাই।
স্টপ টুডে। হ্যাঁ,
হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ
আমি
অমিত ভাই,
ইকবাল
ওকে,
ভাই, আমি
থ্যাংক ইউ,
এক্সট্রিমলি সরি। হ্যাঁ,
থ্যাংক ইউ অমিত ভাই।
আর এ নট থিঙ্কার, আমিও এক্সট্রিমলি সরি। আজকের জন্য সরি। আমি নেক্সট দিন যেদিন আসবো সেদিনকে লাইভ স্ট্রিম করবো, সেদিনকে ডিসকাশন হবে। মাসিয়া ভাই, যদি আপনি সংশয় লাইভে বা কেউ যদি সংশয় লাইভে একটা লাইভ করতে চান, প্লিজ সবাইকে জানাবেন। যদি লাইভ করেন আমরা যুক্ত হবো একটু বাদে, কারণ আমাকে একটু ডিনার করতে যেতেই হচ্ছে। হ্যাঁ, আমি এক্সট্রিমলি সরি, মানে পুরো
আমি শেষ
ফ্যামিলি
কথা
ওয়েট
একটু
করছে।
বলি, ইকবাল ভাইকে একটা শেষ কথা বলে আমি আমি চলে যাব।
হ্যাঁ, শিওর, শিওর।
হ্যাঁ, যে এখানে এভরিথিং যখন আমরা বলছি বা এনিথিং দ্যাট বিগিনস, তখন এনিথিংটা এটা এখানে সেটা লজিক্যালি যা এক্সিস্ট করতে পারে। এখন আপনি যদি সেটা ইউনিভার্সের ভিতরে ধরেন বা বাইরে ধরেন, আমাদের প্রেমের শুধু একটুকুই বলতে আছে যে এনিথিং যেটা লজিক্যালি এক্সিস্ট করতে পারে, যেটার বিগিনিং
আমার
আছে,
তো কোনো
সেটা
সমস্যা
একটা
নাই
কজ
ভাই
দরকার।
এখানে, আমার তো কোনো সমস্যা নাই সেই স্টেটমেন্টে।
না তাহলে তো, তাহলে যদি তারপরে আপনি বলতে চান যে এখানে
পরে
কোয়েশ্চেন বেকিং
হচ্ছে কি
হচ্ছে।
সমস্যা আমার, এই পরে হচ্ছে আমার সমস্যা, ওই এনিথিং বা এভরিথিং এই সেটটা, এই সেটটাকে যদি আমি এই এই সেটটাকে যদি এই সেট থেকে আলাদা ইন্ডিপেন্ডেন্ট বলে বলি, তাহলে কি এটা সেন্স মেক করে?
না, ইউনিভার্সে আমরা যখন লজিক্যালি কথা বলি তখন তো ইউনিভার্সকে আমরা, ইউনিভার্স কে বাদ দিয়ে আমরা সাধারণত লজিক্যালি, যদি পি এক্সিস্ট করতে পারে,
আমি
মানে
জানি
পি এর যদি
ইউনিভার্সকে বাদ
বিগিনিং
দিয়ে মানে
থাকে।
কি, আমি আপনি যদি এক্সিস্টেন্সের কথা বলেন, এখানে আরেকটা কথা আছে দেখেন, একটা মোমেন্ট এক্সিস্ট করার মানেটা কি? আমি এই জিনিসটা তো আমি ধরেন ক্যাট এবং টম এর মধ্যে, সরি অমিত ভাই চলে যেতে চাচ্ছে অনেকদিন যাবত, উনি ওনাকে
আচ্ছা,
লাইক।
তাহলে এক মিনিট, ইকবাল ভাই, একটা কাজ করুন। আমি লাইভটা স্ট্রিমটা এন্ড করছি, কিন্তু আপনারা এই প্ল্যাটফর্মে একটুখানি কথা বলে আপনারা বেরিয়ে যেতে পারেন। হ্যাঁ, সেটা করতে
আপনি
পারি।
স্ট্রিমটা এন্ড, আপনি স্ট্রিমটা এন্ড না করে তো যেতে পারেন, পরে এসে আপনি এন্ড করতে পারেন না?
সেটা আমি জানি না আমি কতক্ষণে আসবে, মানে আমি বেরিয়ে যাবো আর কি ইকবাল ভাই। মানে কেউ থাকবে না কিন্তু তখন।
চলুক তাহলে, অসুবিধা নাই, মানুষজন দেখুক এটা।
আচ্ছা, ঠিক আছে, সেটা করতে পারি। আহ,
তাহলে এন্ড করবে
নাকি?
কে ইকবাল ভাই?
এন্ড করা
হ্যাঁ,
দরকার,
সেটাই।
এন্ড এটা অটোমেটিক
ইট
এন্ড
উইল
হয়ে যাবে
কন্টিনিউ।
কিন্তু ধরেন, হ্যাঁ আপনি
দেয়ার
যখন
উইল বি নো
আসবেন।
কন্ট্রোল, মানে কেউ ঢোকানো বেরোনো কেউ করতে পারবে না কিন্তু।
না সেটা তো আপনি মানে ওই আপনার ব্যাক স্টেজেও করতে পারবো না, তাই না?
না ইকবাল ভাই, আমার
না,
কাছে মনে
সেটাই
হয়
করতে
আমি
হবে।
অমিত ভাই এটা শেষ করে দেখ, আর সত্যের সন্ধানী ভাইতে হয়তো লাইভ হইতেছে, যারা যারা ওইখানে কথা বলতে চান ওইখানে গিয়ে কথা বলে ভালো। এটা আজকে শর্ট
হ্যাঁ,
থাকুক এই
ওখানে
লাইভটা।
হ্যাঁ, এটা হলে
ঠিক
ভালো
আছে,
হয় আর
তাই
কি।
তবে। তাহলে তাই তবে ওখানে ওখানে
হ্যাঁ,
সবাই আছে, ওখানে কথা বলতে পারেন। তাহলে আমি এন্ড করলাম, হ্যাঁ, লাইভটা।
ওকে ওকে।
তাহলে
ঠিক
ইকবাল
আছে,
ভাই,
আমি
তাহলে এই কনভারসেশনটা কখন আবার
আপনি কি যাচ্ছেন